I beg your pardon?
Sorry.
No problem. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
The video is not showing on the Zoom screen. We can hear you.
I pledge allegiance.
There you go.
United States of America, republic, which stands one nation.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Nathan Ritchie. I am standing in for Frank Walker since I am present and Frank is on Zoom. I'll apologize again for my attire. I had surgery today, so I'll be wearing a baseball cap today. We're going to start with the approval of the minutes. Oh, he does.
So moved.
No, I'm not going to be reading the statement anymore.
Okay. You're not?
Thank
okay. Those days are over. So do we have an approval of the
So
minutes?
moved.
Okay.
Move approval.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And do we need to take a roll call, Michelle? Okay.
Nathan Ritchie,
Here?
Frank Waka,
Here,
James,
remotely.
Tom Capenny,
Yeah, in person.
Pete Wilson,
Here in person.
Katie Makinson.
I don't know if you heard the responses, but both Mr. Lewis and Ms. James are online.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I didn't hear my name. I
didn't hear my name
very
either.
low.
You're both here, though. We're going to mark
Yes.
you here, and we can see you there. Hi,
Madam
nice
Clerk.
to see you.
Yes, you too.
Yes.
Sir, you have to make sure you speak into the microphone or those online can't hear you.
Will do.
So we have an approval and a second of the minute. All in favor? I think that we all were. And yes. Now we're going to move on to an approval of the agenda. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay. Where are we? We want to start with the comments from the public here? Mike?
That would be on non-agenda items.
Okay.
So if there's any members of the public that would like to speak prior to the meeting starting on not on an agenda item, but on something else that would be before the POB, now would be the time to speak. If you want to speak on a matter that's going to be heard by the board, please wait until that moment so that it can be applied to the matter at hand.
Thank you. So we don't have any comments from the public. We're going to move forward. Do we have any comments from our wonderful board? Anyone? Katie? Pete?
I have one comment. I hope everybody's doing well and safe and that your surgery was good.
Well, we'll see.
I had somebody that hurt his back, so I don't know.
I had, yeah, I'm falling apart, but I made it to this meeting, so thank you, though. I appreciate that. Yep, let's turn that off. Community Redevelopment Board. We're going to move on to our first item. We just lose Mike Martell, which is Resolution 96-2020, 315 Osceola Street. Do we have the applicant here? We do, great.
Oh,
Not on?
Board, can
Dave?
staff introduce at least the our portion of what we're requesting?
Is that what you'd like to do first?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. The staff does not have a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
However, we want to introduce that this is an item that had come to us. We had advertised for it for this meeting, but we recommend continuing the item to next month so that we can get a full review of new documents, new submittal documents.
Understood.
The applicant is here. There was some initial documents that were provided to you in the packet, and the applicant is here to present to get any kind of feedback that you may wish to give.
Okay, super.
Is that,
Yeah, I don't think it is on, Dave.
My name is Mike Stetson. I'm a third generation Floridian and a 40-year resident of Martin County. I was vice president of the Economic Council when we brought Andreas Drawny in to do the special charrette we had for the downtown redevelopment area. It's made downtown Stewart now so wonderful. Kev Freeman and I've have worked together for quite a while. When he was here with the city the first time, then at the county, and now back to the city, we're glad to have him back. And while back then, I had my own firm here for about 30 years, and we annexed 100 acres into the city of Stewart when Kev was here originally. Just a little background. I am not the applicant. I'm a realtor, and I'm just representing the applicant now very shortly. Do we have the PowerPoint?
You just
Okay.
let me know when to switch the pages.
Is this a control?
It might not work because it's a PDF.
Okay,
If you just say next, Mr. Mayor will turn it for you.
terrific. Okay, this is on Osceola Street. It's a vacant piece of property right now next to the Dunn Building. And we have some really nice plans. We've been working with the staff for quite a while. As I said, we didn't quite get everything in on time for approval this time, but we just want to give you a little brief overview, I guess, and just get an attaboy or something like that. So next, please.
Nice project.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
I particularly like the river view.
Is it not loading?
Well, did members get a copy of the documents?
Yeah, but Mike, I didn't even look at it since it said it was going to be continued.
Oh, okay.
I thought that perhaps you had something that maybe you wanted to point out regarding evaluation or something we should keep an eye on for when we come back through.
Right, right.
I'll move that we continue it to September 1st. Is that the date you want, Kevin?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
I think that was just a late aye.
Okay.
Okay, we'll certainly have a nice presentation when we come back. I'll
Perfect.
be on
Yeah,
time.
and we'll get through a clear sheet.
There you
Perfect.
go. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Where are we now? Just bear with me one second. Let me get back to my form. We are moving on to our second presentation. This is CDBG Application and Housing Assistance Plan.
Correct. We're trying to upload the presentation. Manal Gandhi Savdas, CRA Administrative Director.
Could you move that microphone down a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. The city is applying for the CDBG grant for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. The first presentation was provided to the board a couple of months ago. We're applying for a grant for $750,000 of CDBG. And staff is requesting your feedback on the draft application that was provided with the agenda item and also the housing assistance plan. The housing assistance plan is what we're going to use to implement the program. So it's important that you provide feedback on that, and it's our guide to how the program will work in the city. So Jim Corbett is here. He's our consultant, and he's going to go over the process, project budget, and the timeline.
Bear with me.
I think this is the PDF, so I can just
Okay.
the slides for you.
Good afternoon, Corbett All Day with Guardian Community Resource Management, offices Dade City for the record. My pleasure to come before you again tonight. We are going to present to you this summary of the proposed CDBG Community Development Block Grant Program application and what that will be all about. The process so far has been a first public hearing was held to discuss the different types of CDBG projects and the different types of applications that the city could pursue. And since that time, the staff has analyzed the city needs and has looked at the LMI program, the CDBG program and benefit to low and moderate income citizens, and is ready to recommend a housing application. What is involved in a housing application is a public benefit of low and moderate income persons. So there's a housing assistance plan that it gives a policy and a guide to how this will be spent. There is an application, and then if it's funded, then the city will have an application process from citizens throughout the city. Owner-occupied structures can apply for rehabilitation for code, safety, and health. Code, safety, and health. The national objective is, again, benefit to low and moderate income families. There's actually an income certification process where we look at their tax records and we look at their W-2s and we look at the different things to verify that they are LMI. Green rehabilitation standards are in the housing assistance plan. There are other criteria in the housing assistance plan that are feasibility, cost benefit, and then also priorities given to disabled, elderly, and veterans. The leverage is $50,000 for points. That's going to be tax increment financing. So those funds have to be used in the CRA. The scope of work, it's any house within the incorporated city of Stewart can apply that's owner occupied. So it can be a mobile home, but generally because of cost feasibility, that's going to be a demo and replaced with a site-built house. Funds are used to rehabilitate, repair, replace owner-occupied deteriorated homes of LMI families. The code, safety, and health. We can do other things like flooring, like painting. We can do some other things as side activities, but the main focus of the program has to be code, health, and safety. A minimum of 11 houses have to be addressed, and it's a $750,000 grant. We will do 3 low income and 2 very low income houses as a minimum. The budget is $615,500 for housing rehabilitation, plus $50,000 of city leverage. Then temporary relocation, that's for the people that need to move out of the house because the repairs are so extensive while the work is being done. And then administration is cost of the housing delivery specialist who does all the inspections and writes up the houses and does the bids, and also the grants administration, drawing down funds and doing grant reports. The total grant then is $750,000 with leverage is $800,000. From here, we look at the due date to be October 5th. This will be a November, December, they'll get a site visit to the city from the state of Florida, Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. And then in January and February, we should have an award, fully executed award going through all the execution circles by March, April, and then we'll start a project in August, September of next year. Release of funds, and then construction in 2021. And with that, I'm here for your questions.
Do you have any questions from
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval and then we can discuss it if you want.
Second,
Fine with that? Where'd my second come from? Frank?
Frank, yes.
Okay, great. We've got a motion and a second.
And then I do have one question that I brought up with Mr. Friedman yesterday. I saw in the application profile,
Give me 1 second, Tom. All in favor of that?
well, I want to.
You want to discuss first? Okay.
Grant preparation cost, it says we could ask for money to do the application preparation cost, and yet we checked no. Is there a reason for that?
It's a draft, working draft, and in order for me to actually put a number in that slot, I have to have the cost of both ads. Those are the kind of things that are eligible as pre-application costs. There's no application fee, but you do have pre-application cost in that you have public hearing ads. So that can be added in at any time.
So what you're asking, can we then say yes, as far as this is concerned, that you can put the cost in later, but so that the motion goes through and we can apply for?
Can recommend it as amended. Can recommend it as amended.
Okay,
And staff will.
Seconders okay with that.
and that's all the question I had on it.
Staff can simply direct me on what kind of costs they'd like to put into that slot.
I
Okay,
can provide.
Mr.
that.
Chair, Ms. James has a question.
Yes, I
James,
have a question.
can you hear us okay?
Kind of, but I hope you can hear me. I think
We can hear you.
when you talk, it's not real loud on my end. I heard Mr. Campini say something about a pre-application cost. Is that for the applicant or the city? And I heard something about it being waived. I'm a little confused on that.
the city is the applicant, so for this particular one, what I brought up, it's for the city's cost in applying for the grant. Has nothing to do with any individual, if we get the money, having a cost.
Like the cost
Okay.
of public hearing ads.
So the ones applying for the program, they just fill out and meet the eligibility requirements. There's no cost for the person needing the rehab.
No, there are no costs for applications from the homeowners to get their house rehabbed.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else here?
Sir, you have to give public comment when it's called for.
You're gonna need to wait. We have to wait until he calls public
Yep,
comment.
just give me 1 minute. Bear with me just a second.
Okay.
We'll have public comment in just a moment. I want to make sure I'm covering all the right stuff here. I'll be sure to share with you.
We're outside on the table.
I know.
His brain is just so big that it's.
Are you getting a card? Okay, that's what I'm asking. Great. And you can fill that out afterwards.
All right. No, just.
If you could state your name as well.
Question. My name is Frank Bauman. I live on Lake Claire Place here.
Mhm.
And I just want to know if this is tax money, local tax money, is it a grant from the federal government, or where does the money come from?
It is a HUD-funded, federally funded grant to the state of Florida. And then the state of Florida has writes a rule and an application, and they have a competitive application process. So we'll get the dollars from the state, but they did originally come from HUD.
All I want to know.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Ms. James' hand is up.
Ms. Shane?
Yes, I have another question. Thank you. The part where the gentleman was speaking about the housing rehabilitation part of the program or the grant,
Yes.
something here about benefits and scoring. Does that mean that the person, the homeowner, has to meet a certain score to qualify for the funds?
No, there's no scoring of the applications for housing assistance. They are based on content and based on the status of the family. So the only criteria you would run into there is if two people came in the door at the same time, applied at the same time, and one was disabled and elderly, that person is going to be higher ranking than the other person if it's not.
Oh,
So there's no
Okay.
scoring, but there's an extensive amount, it fills a 3-ring binder. There's an extensive amount of forms and criteria for that application, but there's no scoring.
Okay, thank you. And may I also ask and have it recorded? I'd like to have a copy of this agenda for the CRB. I don't have one other than what's online.
The full agenda is online. That's what I'm using to access the meeting myself.
Yeah, I just want a portion. I just want this portion. I don't have I know I have the full agenda and I don't print all of that. So I will stop in City Hall and just get this portion. I'd like to ask for a copy of that.
Okay.
Be ready for me one day this week.
You just want us to take this section in its entirety out for you and print it, and it'll be waiting for you to
Yes.
call. That's great.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion and a second that are holding apparently.
Any more public
Right,
comment?
Frank?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
If anyone online,
Any additional comment?
if anyone online would like to give public comment, please raise your hand now. See none?
No? Okay. All in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have an
you.
excellent rest of your day.
And you as
You
well.
too.
All right, let's see where we're at now. Now we are on to the third item on our agenda, which is 2449-2020 Sailfish Cove rather.
If you'd like, I'll read it in for the record.
Oh, right.
That's ordinance number 2449-2020. This is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, approving a rezoning from urban waterfront to urban planned unit development for a 0.925 acre property owned by Certeris Partners Holdings LLC, located at 37 and 41 Southwest Seminole Street, said land being more fully described in Exhibit A attached, establishing the Sailfish Cove UPUD consisting of 30 multifamily residential units and 5,768 square feet of office commercial use in accordance with the section 2.07.00 of the Stuart Land Development Code, allowing a density of 26.75 dwelling units per acre on a 0.925 acre site, approving a final site plan, providing for development conditions, including a timetable for development, declaring the plan to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, providing for directions to city clerk, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes. And I apologize if it's not Certeras and it's Curteras, but we'll learn that soon.
We will indeed. All right, so is the applicant here for this?
I
And do
think
we
that
want to?
Steve Mayer will be starting the, or
Are
Tom
you
Reeds
on?
will be starting the project for us.
Okay, perfect.
Good
Perfect.
afternoon, Board. Chairperson Ritchie, Board CRB Board, Tom Reitz, Senior Planner for the record. So this is an application by Certeris Partners Holdings LLC for the Sailfish Cove UPUD. It's a rezoning and master site plan approval. The address is 37 and 41 Seminole Street. So I want to start with the requested variances, and we'll get to a site plan later. But just to briefly go over those, the applicant is asking for a variance for the density. Anything over 15 dwelling units per acre, the commission is required to approve. In this case, they're asking for 26.75 units per acre residential. The next exception is certain street setbacks in the urban waterfront zoning district. A 5-foot front setback is typically required. And then in this case, they're asking for a 0 setback from the front property line. Principal building placement. They're asking that the building be part of only 80%. It's normally required 80% frontage, and in this case, I'll let the applicant describe what they're asking for in this case. It's actually 100, they have a 100-foot wide building, and they're asking for more than a 100-foot wide building. And in this case, it's 120 feet with the screened louvers. And then finally, parking within an envelope is required to be approved by the City Commission. So the site's located on the north side of Seminole Street. It is currently undeveloped. There were previously 2 buildings, one the Clifton Lodge that was relocated further east on Seminole Street, and the other one was demolished. Previously, a 20-unit condominium project was approved, and that is no longer valid and has extinguished its approval time. So as I mentioned earlier, the existing zoning is urban waterfront. Applicants asked or requested that we rezone to a urban planned unit development. The site basically consists of retail, office along Seminole Street, or the option to be retail or office. There's a central maintenance mechanical area in the building. And then on the first floor, there is one larger unit. And the second and third and fourth floors contain residential, except for the front is also office or retail just along Seminole Street on the second floor. So the conditions for development include red lines that were not included in your packet that we've worked out with the city attorney and the applicant since we published the agenda item. And basically condition 16 is asking that within 30 days of the approval of the UPUD, that the applicant provide a legal description and survey necessary. Upon transfer, the city then will agree to a right-of-way use permit for the same, upon which the applicant will build the Seminole Street improvements, including sidewalk and curbing. If in fact if the CRA streetscape plan goes first, then the applicant would agree to give the monies to the city, which equal $47,559. Other conditions that have changed include the city manager giving a right-of-way permission to develop in the city's right-of-way. And condition number 20 asks that the riparian rights for the existing boardwalk be given to the city, whereas we don't have those at the very moment, or at least they weren't recorded the first time we got them. This is an existing picture of the site, and there is some rubble that will need to be cleaned up. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the applicant's agent, Marcella Gambler, to give her presentation.
Great.
Thank you, board members. I don't know, acting chair and the chair that's in Zoom. Can you upload the presentation, please? Marcella Camblor, principal for Marcella Camblor and Associates, for the record. And as soon as we get the PowerPoint up and running, as was mentioned by staff, this is an application for a rezoning to an urban PUD. There was formerly a project approved in this same site. I think that we're making some changes to it to better respond to market conditions. We believe that the changes will not only meet a number of objectives within the comprehensive plan, but really create housing within a market or a price range that is really not in existence today within the downtown area. Do you need my help? Nope. There you go. Yay. Okay. So I'm glad I can pronounce the name of the corporation. It's Certares. I didn't I didn't come up with the name, but the partners in this corporation are people you know. One of them is George Hart, who is the owner of Mulligan's and a business owner and resident for many years here. Which one is the forward button?
It may not work.
Is it on? I don't want to turn it. Okay, thank you. And Mike Batt is his 50% partner too. As was mentioned by staff, the site is on Seminole Street. It's just under 1 acre. Previously on this site, there was a 4-story building that you can see on the screen. It was approved for 22 residential units. They were fairly large units because the building in and of itself was about 120,000 square feet, give or take. This building we are proposing now has 30 residential units and 8 commercial units, and it's just about half the size of the previously approved building. Staff showed you a footprint of the ground floor. We're very excited that, that this building is taking into consideration many elements of sustainable design. The ground floor is going to be an open ground floor, no air-conditioned lobbies like you see, you know, in more urban areas or up north. We don't see the reason, I mean, we're in the tropics, why this couldn't just be shuttered if there's a big storm and have big fans, but really try to minimize the need of air-conditioned space or public spaces that are continuously having to be climate controlled and that nobody's really using. So is the green one a pointer? As you can see, the building only steps on the ground in these yellow areas and of course columns. And this central access point, it is a breezeway and a series of community areas, very much like a tropical resort where you know, once you're in the building, but it's an indoor-outdoor type of experience. And it doesn't get air conditioned until you turn in, go into one of the elevators and access the upstairs hallways. Again, much like you would have in tropical resorts or in buildings that are built in tropical conditions, much like ours. The overall building sits on top of this area. You can see the orange boundary. I don't know who's moving the cursor. Is the cursor you?
So people
Me?
online can follow.
Oh, I thank you.
I'm sorry, Marcella, what'd you say about the orange line?
So while the yellow is the actual footprint of the building, there's also an area that is covered and the building goes, you know, cantilevers over that covered area. So the orange shows the overall building envelope and the yellow shows what's actually sitting on the ground.
So that's second floor up.
Second floor, third floor, fourth floor. But ground floor is the yellow, orange is the other 3 stories. It's hard to see, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. The proposal includes also up to 20 docks the previous proposal had the same number of docks in its proposal. The diagram just shows a preliminary engineered dock, but it will be up to a maximum of 20 docks. Some of the writing is getting squished. Well, no, it's moving up, but it doesn't really matter. As staff mentioned, and I have to clarify, in the site plan that you have in your packet, it says that the proposed density is 24 and change. The proposed density is actually 26.75 units per acre. Now, we're going to get into what in your packet is listed as requested variances or requested exceptions. Our team believes that this is a rezoning. We understand that staff is comparing what we are proposing to the existing urban waterfront zoning, but we're not doing a straight zoning and requesting variances. We're requesting a complete new urban PUD, and that's going to be the new zoning. So the open space that we're proposing is 25%. If we compare that to the urban waterfront has a 0% requirement of open space. 25% pervious area. And as staff mentioned too, this slide shows that, that among the contributions from the developer, there's going to be, it says here $39,000 because up until a few minutes ago, that was the number that we had for the cost of improving the right-of-way consistent with what the CRA has in mind for Seminole, but it's gone up to about $47,000, and the applicant is in agreement with that amount. Here's a rendering of the view. So looking towards the southwest, ground floor that could be office or retail spaces. These are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bays.
Is this Seminole Street?
This is Seminole Street, yes.
Okay, so then I'm looking
You're looking
to the north.
No, you're looking, sorry, yes, you're looking northwest right now.
And this is a Ford Oak. Okay, got it.
Northeast.
Northeast.
We got you now.
Okay, you're
You
looking,
said northwest. I just want to be clear that this is not the western perspective. The sun sets in the west and the sun is facing that building.
okay, so I'm gonna take geography. So that way is City Hall.
Right.
Got it.
Okay,
We're there with you.
okay. The upper stories are residential units. These units right here, also 1, 2, 3, and 4 are office units. So this is a true mixed-use building, consistent with the CRA plans, consistent with your comprehensive plan. Now this is looking in the opposite direction. I'm not going to venture.
So the water's behind us at this?
The water is in front of us. We're looking at it from the front. This is Seminole Street. We're looking towards, if you were able to see through this vista, this opening here, you would see the water.
You would be, but for the record, we would be standing basically at like Riverwalk.
Exactly. We're standing at Riverwalk, looking at the water towards
It would
the
be
northeast.
southeast.
Southeast?
You're looking southeast now and northeast before.
Okay.
That side didn't change.
No, no, you're still looking.
So the water is not north. The water is
We're
north.
still looking north.
Yeah.
No,
Northeast.
All right. The water.
I think we all know where we are.
Okay, we're standing.
I was gonna say, as long as we're standing on Seminole.
We're standing on
If
Seminole.
it's in south, we gotta
Riverwalk
correct
is behind us right now, and we're looking towards the water
Understood.
in the wrong direction, opposite way of traffic along Seminole Street. And you can see that the building is set, on what appears to be the property line, but it really is not. This is a setback of anywhere from 13 to 15 feet because the actual property line is this white line here at the edge of the road. So the applicant has discussed this with the city, has chosen to recess the building in order to allow for on-street parking and to allow for a sidewalk, and then has set the building at the edge of that sidewalk. One of the conditions that you've seen is a dedication of this property to the city. And again, the applicant is happy to do that. There's a proposed sculpture and fountain right on the corner of the property. Now, technically, this sculpture and this fountain are within the applicant's property. Once the applicant turns over that easement or that strip for sidewalk and utilities to the city, it will be in public right of way, which is why we need an agreement to build public art in the public right of way. It's not, you know, I just don't want it to be misinterpreted that we're coming and trying to put the art in an existing public sidewalk. It's the property we're donating. We're going to have an agreement to build this in that area right there. A view, now we're standing in the water, looking back towards Seminole Street at the common areas, pool areas. As you can see, large balconies, great views, awesome sunsets from this building right here. Now, it's interesting, I mentioned about the units. We have 30 units proposed in a much smaller building. The units are very diverse in size. We have one studio, one studio, 3 studios plus a den, 3 one-bedroom units, 6 one-bedroom units plus a den, 9 two-bedroom units, 2 two-bedroom units plus a den, and then the corners on both sides are the bigger units, which are the 3-bedroom units. This believes to market research, but we also believe that this will allow housing affordability or housing attainability on the waterfront. And we're doing this by design. You know, the smaller the unit, obviously you're familiar with, you know, rental is on a per square foot basis and sales are on a per square foot basis. So I think that this will allow a lot more people to access and live downtown. So a couple of renderings of what the units are going to look like. As I mentioned before, we understand why these items were pointed out as exceptions. We believe it's really not an exception, again, because we're not doing straight zoning and a change to straight zoning, but a new category. But I'm happy to explain some of these too. There's a note that that this project is requesting an exception to the existing density. The applicant believes that the existing density in the comprehensive plan is 30 units to the acre. This project is below the density that is allowed in the comprehensive plan. Again, in this rezoning, we are asking that the density for this urban PUD be of the density that is being proposed at 26.75 units to the acre. Again, consistent with the comprehensive plan and consistent with the CRA plan. I did a little study because, you know, my office is down the street. I guess I talk about density all day long, and there's concerns about how much density we're bringing into the city. You know, this area is about a 25-acre area around the core of our densest part of downtown, where all our documents are pointing to walkability and mixed use and sustainability and compact development. This area right here today is averaging a gross 1.8 units to the acre. When we count the number of units that we have in this 25-acre site right here.
How far up are you going?
I just went to Civitas. I mean, I picked 25 acres. I did, you know, we can talk. I did the math, and if we include all of the Potsdam area at 70 acres, just gets to about the size of a small neighborhood. That's 2.8 units to the acre gross. Now, when you think that recommendations coming from LEED and from other, from Smart Growth America and these organizations that talk about sustainability and how do we create a balanced mobility, the minimum density recommended for the ability to support transit, minimum transit, we're not talking trains, is 32 units to the acre. We're at 1.8 or 2.8, or if we keep adding, we may get to, maybe 4 or 5 on a gross level. And so I understand that some of these buildings coming in at 30, the building in and of itself may feel like we're bringing too much. However, our downtown is for the most part built out. There's the opportunity to start redeveloping parcels like what we are doing here along the waterfront. And so we're taking that opportunity to really start to create that true mixed use walkable environment that our comp plan and the CRA plan call for. Some of these other items listed as exceptions, one is item 20406, and it talks about some setbacks from the streets that apply, that we are not meeting those. We don't believe that this applies because the streets listed are Dixie, Palm City Avenue, East Ocean Boulevard, and US 1. So either we got the number wrong or maybe staff meant to talk about a different item here. We talked about this one, the fact that policy 3.0103E1A requests that the building be built setback anywhere, no less than 5 feet setback, not less than 10 foot from waterfront, from Seminole, and no less than 5, and that we were proposing 15, right? Again, we are technically, once we turn the land over to the city to build the sidewalk and build the parking, the building will be on a 0 setback. Right now, it's a 13 to 15 foot setback because we are making room for the public sidewalk and the right of way. There's another comment about not meeting condition or needing an exception for condition 30103(1F) that says that if a building facade is 100 feet or more in width, measured parallel to the nearest body of water, an additional vista needs to be provided within the building's facade so that you can see the water. Now, the building has a couple of wings that step back right here. It's not showing, but the overall building width is 160 feet. The central volume is 99 feet. And just immediately to the west and east of this volume, there's one view corridor right here, another one right here, and another one right here. Now, we've done a couple of renderings. Staff had recommended opening up some louvers that we have right here. I'm going to show you. We would prefer to leave the louvers. If you can see the building again, on this side immediately you would have that view. Staff is recommending that we open up this view, which we could. Unfortunately, the screen is dark because you could see the water in the back, but I don't know, we believe that you can walk a couple of feet and see a clear shot of the water as opposed to trying to see it through the cars. Finally, there's a comment that parking needs to be located within the building envelope, and that requires commission approval. We have managed to put all of the parking shielded from public view. There are some spaces that remain as on-street parking. Those will be dedicated to residents at night, but they will be available to the public during the day. We believe that this is going to add parking. Seminole does not have any parking in this location. And there's a couple of spaces that are just to the front of the building. Those are short-term parking, and those are also available to be used by the public. We do believe this will truly help with these with these businesses right here. So staff's recommendation is a recommendation of approval to consider the rezoning to the urban PUD. I'm happy to answer any questions. The rest of our team is in Zoom, so if we have questions for, our landscape architect or engineers, hopefully they can answer them if I can't.
Great. Thank you. I hope that you'll stand by closely. I'm sure we have some questions.
Sure. Do you want me to stay here or sit? You tell me.
Marcel, I got a quick question.
Sure.
So the sidewalk is what's the width of the sidewalk, 4 feet?
No, so we are leaving 13 feet. And again, we originally had designed the parking spaces to be 7 feet wide, and we wanted the remainder of that to go, it was another 6 feet, right, to go to the sidewalk, to go to the sidewalk. The building at that point, I believe, is 15 feet. Your Seminole Street design engineers are requiring that the parking spaces be 8.5 feet. So the remainder will be dedicated to the sidewalk. I believe we're ending up with a 6-foot sidewalk.
What I looked at was 4.
I saw 4.
I saw 4 as well.
It was, the dedication was 13 feet, 9 for parallel parking and 4 for sidewalk.
Okay, so I believe that the design of the parking has changed to at least 8.5, and we were trying to get it to be narrower because we wanted to, elevate the pedestrian as opposed to make the parking more comfortable, but we just have to make it consistent with whatever your plan is. So I vote for narrower parking space.
I mean, you can't go much narrower than 8 feet wide, and so you make it 8. The cars are too wide they'll be sticking out of the parking spaces into the road.
Yeah. I mean, Seminole is quite narrow. There are a lot of urban places that are doing the 7-foot. You could also have them as 7 feet and mark them as compact car parking, just like you have in Osceola, larger and smaller. I mean, it's up to you. Now, we don't also want to delay this project for the whole, I mean, there's been a ton of work done for the CRA, but if we can't push the building any further back, but I think if we can play a little bit with the parking spaces, we wouldn't mind making those compact.
And you couldn't push it back, why?
Because we run into issues with the separation for the pool and setbacks from the, everything now starts to get really tight. When you work in these urban infill projects, it's amazing how long the fights are over inches.
So how far do you have to be from the river?
10 feet.
And how far are you from the river?
Well, the pool is going to be 10 feet. And then we have a deck, and we have to have on-site water treatment, which the previous project had a small water treatment area and had a lot of a French drain underground system. We are proposing a bioswale area in the rear, so that takes up a significant amount of space, and that's determining our setback. So if we don't have to do pre-treatment, we could push it back a little bit.
What are the sizes? You pointed out to the area that you can see the water from the street. There's some look-throughs, as I'll call them. How wide are those? Are they 5 feet wide? Are they 15 feet wide?
No, so let me just go back to that slide. Oh, I went far too back. So this one right here.
Is that one of the ones you're talking about?
Yeah,
right
because
there?
this doesn't have any parking. So as you're walking, you see through this opening, which is 20 to 22 feet wide. The other side has one that is also 20 to 22 feet, and then it has an additional 10 feet right next to it. So that one's about 32, 34 feet. And then on this.
But the look-throughs that we're talking about are thoroughfares for cars, right?
Well,
it's not just empty space.
There's so on this side, okay, excuse me. Let me see if I have, I'm just trying to get to a plan.
Could I ask a question, please?
Sure.
On that same exact point, to the left of where the car was parking through there, this is Frank Waka. That's the louvered area you were talking about that you wanted to keep to the left of the drive.
So the louvered area on this side. The louver is
On
right
the
here.
left side of your picture there, or your,
I don't, Frank,
Okay.
you can't see what she's doing
Oh,
yeah, I can.
with the pointer?
Yeah, look up at the top. She's the top
Okay.
picture on the
Yeah.
screen.
That
Okay.
right there is where the louver would block
that's
that, right?
louvered. That's one of the louvered. We have 2 louvered areas.
Right, the other one's on the other side.
Yeah, this one we're keeping. That's not the one that we had a recommendation to remove. So this one is 22 feet. And it goes through. This is about 10 feet right here. This is the one that has the louver that staff was recommending we remove that louver, which we could. I mean, when the cars are not there, you could see more. And then this is another 20 feet plus 10. So we have 30 right here.
And I'll point out to the board that if you go down Seminole Street and you find the areas between properties and or where there's literally no cars or anything else, owners have a tendency to put up hedges and privacy. So what you end up doing is if you have nothing, it'll end up losing the view altogether with vegetation that grows in. By having the view corridor be the path where the cars go, it ensures that there'll actually be a view corridor.
Yeah, I
Because
understand.
otherwise it ends up being, you know, if you go further down the street, you'll see all those paths you can't see through, or all the way down Osceola for that matter.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Pete.
I'm thinking back to when I was here with the original plan. We didn't have anywhere near that amount of open corridor, did we?
No, there was a central piece and it also matched sort of the drop-off area.
Right, I mean, I think we required something like 10 feet or 11 feet on the
It's 12 feet.
right-hand side, whatever. So, I mean, really what we're getting at this, with this plan is more open view than we had last time. And yet now it's an issue and then it wasn't? I'm
Yeah, so
trying to figure why that is.
It's in the code.
Okay.
So they have to address it as a code regardless. I should
Okay.
also tell you that in this particular instance, when the code was created, it was Mary Hutchinson was the one that was promoted this. There was no boardwalk or public access to the river behind the buildings. It was intended to give the public river vistas or wherever.
Right.
It should be noted that, I mean, these guys are also giving a public boardwalk on the back, which is pretty significant.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the vistas. I think I think it's nice to have them for the public as they come up.
Well, this
Seminole.
I'm sorry, Pete. Will this be connected to another boardwalk at this point?
It's the same boardwalk.
Yes. So
There's one, it's close.
it
enough
is
to-
already connected. You can go down right here and walk over there. So yes, the riparian rights are being, I guess, deeded over to the city. And we're also going to make that frontage, the fence on that side is going to have art so that, you know, it's not just protecting privacy, but it's an artful piece.
So this is actually an improvement over what we had before.
I would say absolutely.
Well, I'm not gonna say no.
No, I
I
mean,
didn't work on the other one, so yeah.
how can you go from 12 feet to 20 feet or 30 feet? 30, 20 plus 10?
Right here on the side, yeah.
Yeah. What?
Well, it's different, you know, it's different setbacks. And again, the one
I
thing
guess
that's
I'm
very
saying it's a non-
different.
It's a non-issue with me.
The other building had pretty impressive community feature, like for residents. They had a very big community room downstairs, very big meeting rooms and exercise rooms. We believe that the amenity is downtown. We're not providing, you know, a little coffee shop. If they want to meet, they'll go to the local coffee shop. If they want to go to the gym, they can walk to the gym. I mean, we're truly trying to get those people on foot and in the street. We're not only trying to keep the units at a much more attainable price point, but we're trying to keep the HOA, you know, and many times the HOA is just running those air conditioning units.
And the docks, how are you going to handle the docks?
I don't think that decision has been made. We can discuss this with the city. We know that those, they're not going to be for sale for outside people or for rent for outside people because of parking situation. I mean, it's not going to become a commercial marina.
So is that part of your conditions?
The conditions include a restriction that the docks be assigned to the residents of the building and that there be
Whether they're sold or
and
not,
no
I don't think
boards.
I personally don't care, but
Right.
They will be only for residents of the building.
Yes.
However they
No
decide
leases
to
and
do
no
it.
liveaboards.
And limited to 20 slips.
22,
Number of
20,
slips,
we're-
moving cars.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's 20, 22. We have to look at the maximum 22.
It wouldn't be over 30 because there's only 30
No.
units.
Well, but let's narrow this all down so we can send it up.
Yeah, I mean, I thought in the application, it's 20, no?
That's
I
what it
think
said
the
in
original approval
Mhm.
for the building that Mr. Walston's referring to
Yes.
was 20.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 has carried forward,
Fine.
but this has different number of units.
Yeah, maybe not everybody gets one.
Right.
Certainly
Um,
not everybody will get
Also,
one.
you brought up the forward portion. I don't know how many square feet that is, but is it 100 by 8 feet? Or but when we're talking about gifting to the city or making this, for parking and for sidewalk.
The
and
13 feet.
13 feet, I'm
and
sorry.
Sidewalk.
I
then,
beg your
or-
pardon. So when we're talking about this, well, firstly, when we're gifting that amount of square footage, in fact, that takes away from your parcel of land, right?
Right.
And then on top of it, so I'll just tell you my thoughts off the hip, which are.
I'm just doing math while you talk. So go
Okay,
ahead.
that's okay. Math, but I'm
14.
glad it's you and not me.
Right.
So when I think of things like parking for residents in the evening, but then it's open to, I personally think that's a can of worms, but that's just me.
Just as a point of clarification, I think that the restriction in the condition of approval would be that they're going to give us the land for the parking and actually pay to build the parking. And as
Yes.
a result, it is going to be credited to them toward their parking requirement, but the parking spaces would be open to the public on a first come, first serve.
That's a different story completely. I misheard.
Yeah, I don't
then.
think that's what she said.
Oh.
I need to clear that up with
But
her
they
afterwards
still
as
have,
well.
they're still shy one space, correct?
I don't know. That's
Two?
2 spaces.
2 spaces.
Well, yeah, again, if we are comparing this to the urban waterfront parking requirements, again, we are creating a new zoning category, which is the urban PUD one.
Mhm.
I think the calculations, the way we calculated parking in our application, the overall number, if we included the commercial and the residential units, came up to about 60 spaces. We applied, there's a recognized multiplier that is applied when you are mixing uses in mixed use downtowns. Now, Stewart doesn't have that embedded in your code yet. Martin County does. So we applied Martin County's multiplier, and that was bringing us down to 42 spaces given the mix of the uses. And we were providing 42 spaces. Now, some of those spaces, about 4 of those spaces are going to end up being on the street. And those are the ones that we're happy to, put a condition on that. We thought that those, from 8 in the morning or 7 in the morning till 9
Yeah,
o'clock
that's
at
what I
night
understood.
are, just like, again, like in urban areas, and overnight they get dedicated.
Mhm.
It's pretty much what's happened. My office is in Osceola Place condominium, and the residents there park at night on Osceola. That's not a problem. And during the day, they just leave for work. So
Unless they don't.
unless they don't, and then they get ticketed.
Right.
It's a 3-hour parking.
Right.
This is part of the 3-hour parking district too?
Yep.
So just for discussion, we have public comment, I know, so can I make a motion so that we can get something on the?
Yeah,
I'll second the motion for discussion so we can get public comment.
Yeah, that's exactly, but, so I'll make a motion to approve.
and I'll second.
Do we want to make any?
Now, I have a question.
Okay, we could fill in the blanks.
Right. I've been looking through the documents that I have, and somehow or other, I can't find a summary of the exception specifically being requested, nor a reference in the ordinance itself approving the PUD.
If you look at the staff report and Marcel had it up, do you see those orange kind of
I
colored?
just did, and I do not have it.
It's a separate link on the agenda.
Here, I can hit A, staff report.
No.
It's
I mean,
It's C. staff
Yeah, I
review.
copy pasted from staff's agenda.
Staff
It's C.
review,
It's C.
UPG.
it's C.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
Yeah, 'cause
trying
I-
to fool you, Pete.
Yeah, and then.
Success.
Success. In theory, what we're proposing here is an approval of a PUD with those specific.
Yes, their new version of this.
And
A
that
new
is
version, yep.
inclusive in the ordinance, right?
That's to Tom or Kevin. I don't know the answer to that.
In other words, that's an attachment that
So-
binds to the ordinance of the
Yeah.
PUD,
Right.
Let me just go through that.
or not.
All right, so
And while you're at it, Kev,
thank you.
specifically this PUD, this very unique PUD that this applies only to this, correct?
Right.
That's right.
So staff, when they present any application, this is any application notwithstanding if it's a UPUD, CPUD, RPUD, residential, commercial, or urban,
Right.
we are required to go into the code and say, okay, how does this differ from any normal application in this area? Now, having said that, this is, as Marcella says, a very unique project. The urban planned unit development is a new planned unit development tool. It's designed to accommodate these types of development. It's designed to accommodate housing units which are smaller in size, to increase the potential for affordability. And when I say affordability, I mean attainability of units, because we are getting smaller units. Even on the waterfront, they should be priced accordingly. And so that would open up the market to a wider audience. It also, in terms of the urban planned unit development, when we look at the variances or the exceptions requested, it's based on whatever zoning was there in the first place. And we report that. And if there was any issues with the exceptions presented to the board, we would say we don't agree with these exceptions being.
Now, I'm familiar with the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's part of the process. It's for clarity.
Right.
It's to inform the boards of how different this is. If there was, as I say, if there was concerns raised by how different this was coming in at, staff would report.
I guess what I was looking for, and maybe I'm out of tune or too old at this point, with PUDs is a specific reference within the ordinance itself that says
Well, we don't really
hold on.
Sorry.
Subject to the conditions agreed to by the staff of the exceptions.
Well, I
Something
think
on that order.
what you're doing here as a board, and I'm not so sure if that's going in the right direction, because what we're doing here as a board and as the process is approving a very specific planned unit development. That is going to be approved based on the plans attached, the conditions attached, which in effect address all the exceptions that we have.
Okay, and those conditions are not attached specifically in the ordinance that I have.
They are.
They are.
If
Yeah.
what this list is telling you as a board what's different than straight code.
Okay.
Then when we get to the ordinance itself, the attachment to the ordinance that has roughly 20 to 25 conditions, in those conditions include waiving the setback for 10 feet, requiring an easement for the riparian rights, requiring them to dedicate the money to pay for the parking in that 13 to 15 foot right of way area.
And it's in this ordinance.
It's
I have
in the,
front
yeah,
of
and
me.
I'm trying to pull it up right now to tell you where.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
and
scrolling down.
I think,
I mean, you're fine. I mean, I
Oh,
think
I'm
all the
sorry.
exceptions are fine as far as I'm concerned. I'm just confused about the order of the presentation and the issue of whether these are actually included.
yeah, and you know, normally when you do, because the UPUD is a zoning category in and of itself. We don't rewrite the entire zoning code. We're just saying, we're picking up everything from the previous one, but we're changing these things.
Yeah, instead of I want this
Exactly.
exception and this exception.
And then they're writing down, and then on top, on straight zoning, we wouldn't have the payments and all those other things. Those are all being written as
So
conditions.
if you look at the attachment called ordinance and you scroll down past the ordinance to page 10, Exhibit C is conditions of approval. Number 3 says development of the subject property as a UPUD shall include an impervious area of not more than 74.4% of the UPUD. The landscaping is described, the prior issuance of site permits and all this stuff, and it goes down to condition number 40.
That's what I was
So
looking
those incorporate that. That's
I was
exactly
just
what you're
looking
talking
for,
about.
make sure that it was
Yeah.
in the ordinance itself, because
Yeah.
I didn't go down that far apparently.
Thank you. Let me ask this. Are we, is this going to have any kind of precedence issue?
By the way, just so we can clarify, and I hear everybody thinking this is a new code.
No, I don't think it's a
Right,
new
what
code.
it is earlier in the year, Mr. Freeman brought forward an ordinance to allow a measurement of smaller units, as he was talking about, for housing. So that was called an urban PUD. So this is the first time that an urban PUD has been applied for in the urban waterfront. So it's simply a PUD in the waterfront using these housing measurements as well as part of it. So
I get that.
it doesn't create a precedent that the guy next door gets the same deviations. It's simply a PUD. This is it. It stands by itself, and it.
And
it is-
whoever is going to come next is going to have
They're
to
going
go.
to
and
say,
they're
well,
gonna
you did it for them, you should do it for us, but there's no legal requirement.
We know that doesn't
happen.
work like that here.
Right, right.
So, Mr. Chair, just so that we can know what we're voting on before we call for public comment. So we're voting.
Could I ask a couple of questions? I have a question regarding engineering.
Frank, of course you can. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And mainly it involves, I read the engineering and understand the engineering report and whatnot. My concern is to make sure that the PUD clearly states that it's going to have to be maintained over time, because there is some underground stuff, and I've seen what happened at the Publix parking lot in Jensen and various other places where it was not necessarily maintained. And I believe I read that in the conditions that they have to maintain all their common areas. And I just want to just verify that, and that is included in there. And the one other thing is the bioswale is designed to, if there's a failure, the runoff is not going to get straight into the water. That's the other part of the question.
So as far as maintenance, unlike many of the projects that have come forward in the last few months, this is not a rental project. This is a for sale home ownership. It will have an HOA, and like every other HOA and condominium, it will be maintained in accordance with that. And if not, there's code enforcement. So I don't know if we were talking about other type of maintenance.
Well, in addition, in answer to Mr. Waka's question, condition 18 says a condition of the issuance of the development permits, the applicant shall obtain a revocable permit for the construction of the sculpture/fountain in the public art, the sidewalk, the parking spaces, the monument sign, curbing, and landscaping, and any other minor right-of-way improvements which must be approved by the city manager under a separate application. That revocable permit will be a binding obligation for them to maintain and list the city of Stewart as a secondary insured in the event that something does, unfortunate happen. So that we cover it in that document.
And is the drainage, Mike, is the drainage stuff covered in that also? That's my concern, is that is runoff getting to the river. So
I'm happy to address that between now and the actual formal CRA approval, but you're talking about the drainage in the backyard.
the stormwater, the stormwater, because I noticed there's things that are up front, and you need to control your runoff, and I want to make sure that over time it's not going to turn into a situation where it's getting into the river.
I just on that point, and I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing. First of all, right now there is no stormwater system on the site, and the site slopes towards the water, so all the runoff is straight into the water. The previous approval was a French drain system. If any of that clogged, it would have run off directly. This has a system that collects in a significant bioswale. We believe that, as far as the light imprint, more sustainable stormwater systems go, this is pretty progressive. We don't know of another urban bioswale in the city of Stewart. And so, you know, if this bioswale fills up and fails, it means we're in the middle of a hurricane or a major event where probably other things are overflowing too. Now, if this overflows, again, remember there's an HOA and there's owners, this would start to overflow into the deck for the pool, and then it would overflow into the pool, and then it would go into the lagoon. So, I mean, you would have.
You don't want it to happen.
Of course not.
No cap.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, and the maintenance is going to be the responsibility of the homeowner. I mean, that's the association.
This is
That's the only thing I'm asking about.
I'll make sure that that's captured in the transition between here and the final reading, because I don't think there's no objection to it.
Ms.
Okay,
James, do you have
thank
your
you.
hand up?
Yes, she does.
Yes, I have a question. Are these rentals or for purchase? Are they condos or townhomes?
They're for purchase.
They're for purchase.
They're for purchase,
Condominiums.
okay. Okay, so I guess I heard the words housing obtainability, so I think that sounds,
No, I think
sounds
he was trying to
pleasing
make a
for
point
young.
that these are more obtainable because there are smaller units.
Oh, because they're, okay, smaller
For
units. I saw the
waterfront living. This isn't, you know, I think I did hear something like affordable housing or something like that, which can very easily get misconstrued. Affordable for the location and being on the water, et cetera.
Yeah, half the price.
Okay, waterfront
Half the price is
property.
considered twice as big. So
Oh,
I do have one more question as well, because you referenced the Esplanade, which is a great point. I know
excuse me, I wasn't, excuse me.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite finished yet.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
And yeah, and I just wanted to say that I think if this is Selfish Cove, the name of the properties, I just like to add in the notes that this is really welcome into the community for Stewart and for young people, young families to have an opportunity to purchase waterfront property in the city of Stewart. However, I must leave this meeting now, so I'm not sure if you're ready to vote or not, or if I need to leave my thoughts with you.
No, I do what you need to do for sure, but thank you very much for that comment. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Faye.
All right, thank you.
So, Mr. Chair. Can I
Yes.
sum up my motion so that we can have public comment and we'll take a vote?
So I have one more question, and that is in regards to your reference about the Esplanade, and you are putting this public art piece out front perhaps.
Yes.
Is that a fountain? And if so,
It is,
are
yes.
you taking care of it?
Yes.
I've seen this debacle before, and it is never ending.
So the only thing that changed is that when the city, everything was going to be private and we were still doing the sidewalk and we were still doing the on-street parking, but when it became a condition and it has to be turned over to the city, our fountain, our private fountain ends up being in the public right of way.
That's right.
Yes, but it's in, you know, I mean, it's in the pride, again, this is ownership. You know, the best way to ensure that the people are attached to the community is through home ownership, and this will be part of their home. So yes, we'll do
In
maintenance.
response to what Mr. Ritchie is responding to, what happened was the developer literally got approval for the project and then sold
Part of it.
50% of the commercial component and de-obligated them from any assessments or association costs related to the maintenance of the unit, and then left them with the right to vote on it anyway. And there was some internal disputes. But one thing that really happened through that debacle, as he describes it, is we, the City of Stewart staff, learned a lot on how to cover those types of rat holes to make sure they don't happen again.
When there's three people standing around all saying, that's not my job, you know, this is somebody else's fountain, but we want it to work, and we're gonna need so many thousands of dollars a year.
I also should probably comment at this time that I do think that Marlin Cove will be a beautiful piece of art, because that's what those are, is Marlins.
Hey, that discussion happened internally.
Can I make one more
Go
comment
ahead.
before the end here? Mr. Chairman?
Art that we're going to be seeing, and is that exactly how it's going to be built?
Yes.
Or is that going to come back to us as the art committee?
No, George is so excited about this. He already bought the sculpture.
You still will have
will
to
come back.
acknowledge and approve it, and we'll still have to have the art process that we do. But this is what staff has accepted from them is to put into the process.
The front elevation. Are we dealing with palm trees or are we going to be dealing with shade trees?
It says palm.
Some palm trees are shade trees.
They're not. As Osceola
Depends on how
would,
skinny you are.
as Osceola would evidence to.
So for Seminole, just for the purpose of the rendering, we drew palm trees because if we draw shade trees, you can't see the building, but we will make the landscaping consistent with whatever the CRA is proposing for the remainder of Seminole. So whatever they're doing, the interior landscaping is pretty much defined. Our landscape architect is on call too, but if it needs to change to match the rest of.
Right.
And the street itself is fairly narrow, and the building across the street is almost 40 feet tall. So there's
I
not,
don't think those neighbors are going to want.
there's
Yeah,
a lot
mean,
of, there's a lot of shade on that
so
street as
it's
it
very
is.
possible that you can get away with the palm trees. It's just, I'm a big shade tree guy. I thought I'd mentioned I was stamping yes to palm trees or not.
I do see a
Thank you,
shade tree
Pete.
in the picture here.
Just quickly, I think I heard Frank saying something. Frank, did you need to make a remark?
Yeah, just a real quick one. I think that this is a really well thought out and well planned project. I like the fact that the louvers are there to let the air flow through. I walk down Seminole often, and having airflow is as important as anything else because you can go to the Riverwalk to get a full river view. So that's my final comments. Thank you.
Fantastic.
I have one comment for staff and that's it. And I promise then all I'll do is vote yes. Notice the base of the palm tree or the statue where there's a wall, right? I think I've noticed that we probably don't have what we would need to have, which is more benches for people as they walk around town to sit on. One of the more convenient places to place your butt is on the wall in front of the old school district building, because they've given you about that high and about that wide, someplace just to rest yourself. I don't know if that can be incorporated somewhere along the way as we build these buildings in town. Make the base of the fence, whatever, wide enough that somebody can just rest against it and sit for.
You know, I think that was a little bit on purpose. We're happy to design it so that it becomes a rest space. The issue that those who work and live in the downtown district in the offices is the musicians. It's just become very hard. Well, they're everywhere in downtown. And so long as that doesn't become, you know, one of the reasons Osceola Place had to put, yeah.
I would certainly understand
So-
if you put spikes on top of the wall.
No, I mean, so it is an issue because then it's in the public right of way and then you can't ask them not to be playing
See, I
music.
consider public art to be public with the ability to rest next to it if you want to, if you're walking the streets. So that's
Sure.
important.
I
Very important to France.
hear you, yes.
Thank you, Pete.
That's it, I'm done.
Perhaps we could move to public comment.
Well, wait, let's finish the motion.
Oh, I thought your motion was up. I thought we had a motion in a second.
Yeah, we have a motion in a second, but let's fill in the blanks so that everyone knows what we're voting on. So my motion would be to have the 40, you got 40 what? Comments?
Conditions?
Conditions, I'm sorry. And to add the part about the open space that we discussed. And we have.
What is what are you saying, to
Yeah.
remove
there.
the louvers or to keep the louvers?
I'm gonna leave that up to staff because it's kind of hard to tell whether those louvers are gonna give us the
Just
open
be
space
clear,
or not. If we
yes.
can design the louvers in order to make it viewable, great. I'm gonna leave that up to staff, but I'm gonna say that we do need to have that open
And
space.
just be clear, staff wasn't suggesting that they remove the louvers. We were just pointing out that in fact they would need the variance if they left them.
Then I would say as part of my motion, I would want to see those louvers so that when people walk by, they can not only get a breeze, but also take a view of the river. And it shouldn't affect the louvers. It shouldn't affect the project at all.
No, so you still have 3 big corridors,
understand.
even if we leave the louvers.
And I'm
So
saying
that
you
would be,
don't need
yep,
to take the louvers down.
Thank
just need
you.
to
Yeah.
make them so that they have,
So you could, what, so they're like this instead of this?
yeah. And you can go through. And you
He wants to be able to see through them.
see through them, so that doesn't feel enclosed, because that is a very narrow street. And other question, and that the 22 dock, up to 22 docks, they would be for only the residents of the building.
Mhm.
And that can only be docks that way. And the riparian rights, that's part of the condition.
It's in them, yeah.
Yes. Okay, and what's the-
Stormwater maintenance is described by Mr. Walker.
Mr. Watt, yes. So it's 41 conditions. So what I didn't see, and I'd like to have it, what's the timetable for your development conditions?
Condition number 39 is August 1st of 2024 for the final CO.
Okay. And this is not a condition? This is just a recommendation, my recommendation. Okay. When you send it to the commission, that they look at the 4 feet sidewalks. And I think that's going to be a problem with the commission. I don't think we should hold it up to that. And I understand what you're saying, but I think just let's make the commission especially aware of that. And so that would be all that I have, and you continue on your second, Mr. Wilson?
I'll continue.
Yes.
I may not agree with you on the louvers, but I'm gonna go ahead and second it anyway. And I agree with you that we should leave it to staff to figure out that 13.5, whatever feet to get the sidewalk they need. So I'm okay with that too. I think it's a matter of note that 4 feet is,
Narrow street, narrow sidewalk.
yeah,
Again.
well, possible, yep. I mean, I'm gonna leave it to staff on that one.
Yeah, well, the commission will decide that.
Okay, so we do have a motion with some conditions and a second. All in favor?
No.
Oh, public comment, I'm sorry. We got a long.
No need for that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So we'll move to public comment. Do we have public comment on this particular item? Yes? Yes, sir.
do you need that mic moved down?
Yep. Dave will get him, and I'm sure we'll get a card for you to fill out. Great. Thank you.
On a public comment I have is, I mean, being disabled in a wheelchair, the 4 feet you talk about with the sidewalks, how would that affect a person in a wheelchair, a disabled person? Also, I didn't see anything about the on-street parking, handicap parking. Is there handicap parking gonna be on street or?
It will comply with all ADA requirements, including ramps and handicap parking.
That's also with the units also?
Not 100% of the units, but
Right.
the construction and building code requires them to provide
Correct.
handicap access. So yes, and I believe there's an elevator.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You need to fill out a card?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a detail, but it looks very cute to have a palm tree right up to next to a building right like that. I don't think it's a very smart thing to plant a very tall tree right next to a building in Florida.
Okay. Thank you.
See no comments online.
Got one more here?
I got a comment just relative to the street and the sidewalks.
Yes.
I would suggest that they take a look at turning that whole streetscape back in there into a flat walkable area so that we don't have curbs and all of those kind of things. That street area is small anyway, and it needs to open up to walk it. And just having it as a streetscape, I think would be more functional. That's my only.
Thank you. We've certainly talked about that in redevelopment before, for Seminole Street, making it a single walkable, maybe not drivable at some point, but walkable.
There is a Seminole Street redevelopment plan that the board has approved, I believe, that Pinnell has been moving forward with, and she could probably answer questions on it if you want.
Yeah, I remember this.
Pinnell Gandhi Savdas. we couldn't make this a curbless street because we need to have some sort of buffer between the sidewalk and the travel lane. And they're proposing on-street parking, so that would be the buffer. If we didn't have any on-street parking, then, you know, if we could make it curbless if there was no on-street parking, but
Why they need that guide?
they need that as a buffer.
Keep them off the sidewalk where
I see.
people are walking.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've been on cobblestone streets that have a sidewalk and parking, and it's all one.
Not
That's the law.
everybody,
That
not everybody
needs to
can
be-
parallel park as well as.
That's right. I believe you.
Okay, so let's call the question so we can move on to the more contentious items.
Yes.
Yes, we'll have some. So that's all for public comment on that? Okay. So we do have a motion and a second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Fantastic. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I was also speaking to Kevin about Seminole Street and our downtown on Osceola. And as you know, Osceola has its own code,
Mhm.
and Seminole comes in within the CRB code. And I was wondering if we could have Kevin come back to us with joining Osceola and Seminole as one unit, as our downtown.
They all fall under the same.
They should all fall under the same code. And I would also like us to look at other things at there. One, that we make all of that area 4 stories. Because why do we have less density downtown? We should have the density downtown and then not so much density.
Yeah, maybe a little less urban
Going
sprawl.
Less urban sprawl. So maybe he could look at that. And also, I also spoke to Kevin and I sort of changed my mind. I'd like, we have a 30% rule for alcohol on Osceola. So maybe because we're now having that type of development with perhaps offices, perhaps retail, we may want to think about including that in our 30% rule, because then we open up for more types of businesses. So if you could.
That's a nice recommendation.
We had taken that into consideration. It's called the Old Downtown District, where the 30% rule applies. But Commissioner Jean Rifkin, back right before she retired, brought forth the ordinance that capped the Old Downtown District to 3 stories. So to make these retail spaces part of the Old Town Down District would then have capped this building at 3 stories because of the way the ordinance read. And that going hand in hand with what Mr. Campenny is saying is, if we were to rewrite that ordinance, it would make sense to include them, or for that matter, that entire row of property on.
Which is your suggestion.
Right.
Yeah.
So that we have more opportunity for downtown, not only to expand, but also so that we do something with Seminole besides just one thing. So, okay.
I'm in favor of those suggestions for what it's worth, staff.
I agree.
We call vote.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see where we're at now. Item number 5, I believe.
Going palm.
I beg your pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, 4. My mistake. Okay, so item number 4 is ordinance 2439-2020, Lone Palm Property Investments LLC, future land use, map amendment, rezoning, and MUCCU. Do you want to go over that, Mr. Mortel? Any more than that I just did?
I don't need to, but I'm happy to if you'd like me to read it. Bear with me.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, amending the City of Stuart's comprehensive plan via a small-scale comprehensive map, amendment from residential low to downtown redevelopment, rezoning from residential single-family R1 to urban district, urban neighborhood, sub-district on the city's official zoning map, and approving a major urban code conditional use for property totaling in 0.72 acres, owned by Lone Palm Property Investments LLC, located between Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Southeast 6th Street, west of Palm Beach Road, being more fully described in Exhibit A, attached, to allow the development of 2 duplex lots and 3 single-family lots, declaring the project to be consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, providing directions to lots, declaring the project to be, oh, did I just reread that? The city clerk providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date, providing for acceptance by the applicant, and for other purposes.
Looks like you found yourself a new job.
I guess so.
Great.
Fire me. So,
Shall I move it for discussion so we can get going?
absolutely.
I move the ordinance.
All in favor?
No.
No, we're gonna have some discussion now. What am I saying? So I get ahead of myself. You gotta catch me. That's why I have you guys here with me.
Reed almost had a great collection.
Yeah, you know I try and race
Now
through.
with the staff, is it, I don't know who's.
Yeah, we're gonna have somebody come up
Start
here,
the
maybe
presentation for
Mr.
you.
So before we go into the presentation, I
Yes,
also
sir.
spoke to Mr. Friedman yesterday about this. And again, I have a little bit of a problem with changing the zoning downtown urban
Mm-hmm.
because it's a mile away.
Yeah.
But we have something called the East Stewart Overlay. East Stewart Overlay, which would do whether we vote for this or not, would do the same exact thing. and
For
it's a-
them?
For them, and it's a block away. So it has a much more rational nexus than to change zoning. It would be, I would consider it spot zoning. Because we're taking a piece of property that has no connection with downtown and we're calling it downtown urban. We have the same exact thing a block away
Mm-hmm.
and
And it
it's
falls
called
under the
the
East Stewart.
Overlay.
Mm-hmm.
And whether we approve this or not, if we're going to change the zoning, I would have no problem calling it part of the East Stewart Overlay. And then we can talk about, making more property to come to it as part of the East Stewart.
Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm. And what was the response you got from the applicant regarding that?
I only spoke to Mr. Friedman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I agree. I mean, part of what comes into my mind, and I mentioned it last time, is that it's spot zoning. And which leaves a bad taste in my mouth. If there's another way out of it, might be more amenable to the project. The other thing with Mr. Hartman, I would check with Mr. Hartman. He's already been here twice now and made changes and expended significant money, not only the first time, but probably the second time.
I understand.
Whether or not these community
Reed,
friendly.
I understand, we don't need to do anything.
Okay, if he doesn't need to spend any more money to change it, it might take away one of the impediments.
It would, the suggested change has been properly noticed for today, so you guys could include that and substitute it if that was agreed on by the parties moving forward, and it
Mhm.
wouldn't require an additional hearing.
Mm-hmm. And I remember the last time that you were here, you were certainly ready to make some concessions and bend and twist to try and make this fit a model that the city could be okay with. I think we need to.
In light of for the benefit of the public that weren't here for the prior presentation, we should probably have Mr. Mayor do the presentation.
Yes.
And then have discussion.
Sure. Why don't we do that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Mayer for the record, Development Department. Ordinance number 2439, 2020 that was just read into the record is a future land use map amendment. It's a rezoning and it's an urban code conditional use approval all in one. The applicant is Reed Hartman. He is here tonight as well as his agent, Don Quazzo. The location of the property, as mentioned in the title, is between Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Southeast 6th Street. And it is west of Palm Beach Road. It is approximately 0.72 acres in size. It is currently vacant, and then you can see on the map here, this is the location. The future land use of the property currently is residential low. It is indicated in this yellow, and you can see that the adjacent properties are also residential low, with the exception here of where the Audubon is. But even the Audubon house there is residential low. The request is to amend the future land use map to create downtown redevelopment. This is by virtue allowed because it is within the CRA boundary. You can see where the CRA boundary is located. It is actually east of the project and will include all of the would include the CRA. as mentioned before, or as mentioned by Mr. Campenny, there is another zone, there is another land use district, an East Stewart land use district, which is closer to it. And, you know, if that's the leisure of the board, it would also be something that would not change the conditional use that is underlying it. So either one of those land uses would be acceptable. The zoning district is R1, single family, which is also the adjacent properties are all R1, single family, and the zoning district urban neighborhood is what's in your ordinance being requested. Again, as mentioned before by Mr. Campenny, if you were to choose the Stewart land use, then we would have to take a corresponding East Stewart zoning, which possibly could be single family district, which would could apply in this case as well. The site plan was provided by the applicant, and he will go through the details of the site plan that's being proposed. And this is part of the conditional use. We have a condition in the conditional use that ties the developer to this site plan. We also have a condition in the conditional use that would have a timetable of when this would be subdivided. And what I would like to mention is that staff not only recommends approval of this ordinance and to forward this to the August 24th City Commission, but staff also recommends adding a clause that would revert the land use designation and zoning district designations to the existing, should the project fail to meet the conditional use deadline for that subdivision platting. This is important so that if the conditional use isn't met, then then the land use and the zoning should not be allowed to continue. It should just go back to the R1 and residential law. At this point, I will hand it over to the, I'm stopping the staff presentation and beginning the applicant's presentation. Pardon me while I find it. All right. And I'll ask the applicant to present their case. Yes.
Don's here by Zoom. Oh, Don, that's where he is.
Is Don giving the actual presentation? Yes. All right, stand by.
It's raining.
I'm hoping I'm coming on.
You're on, sir.
Oh, thank you. Can you see me? Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Don Quazzo, and I am representing Lone Palm Properties. And I think in the audience you have the Hartmans there tonight. I just want to make one comment that I have, you know, many of you know me. I represent a lot of developers over the years, but I don't think I've ever represented anybody that's been an 8th generation Floridian. So it is quite amazing that the Hartmans family have been here in Florida for over 8 generations. I don't really have a problem. You can go to the next slide. Again, we're just trying to show you the location of this. The city is obviously moving in to its building phase. If you just happen, I'm now on 6th Street myself, where there was once, I believe, an old Hartman house that was torn down and rebuilt into 2 existing single-family homes. Next slide. Again, we're just recapping what the staff has already shown, land use and zoning. Next slide. Again, shows the general area there, which is a good context for all of what's going on in this area. Martin Luther King has a variety of uses along it, from parks to, you know, your stuff to multifamily to duplexes, from one end of it to the other end of the Railroad Avenue. Next slide. Just a survey of the existing property that shows you the lot widths that were originally platted, which I think that Mr. Hartman has some history with this plat. Next slide. I mean, here, this is a very old piece where you can see these lots here where we're talking about. Thank you. Next slide. All right, so in doing our analysis of compatibility, we did some 32 lots, and if you look over really the stuff that's appropriate, the first two are our property right now. And then if you look at this analysis, all we're trying to indicate is that we're in the same ballpark with lot sizes, and we're certainly within the same ballpark with houses on this individual pieces of property that are existing out there. And you'll see that where these homes actually are when we get down. This is just a continuation. It's actually 34 slides. Next slide. So there you get to see in relationship, there's 1 through 12. Next slide. And then there's 13 through 22. These corresponds to that table. Next slide. And then the final is, on the other side of Palm Beach Road and then right next to us. Next slide. Again, showing where there's, at the other end, obviously everybody's familiar with this piece of property and where everything is located. Again, so we've come in here with this site plan. I was not available at the last meeting. The Hartmans asked us to just come up with a quick site plan to kind of give you an indication of what we have. And this is what really is trying to exist. I guess at the last meeting, there was some concern about, 4 duplex driveways. So we've reduced that and made 1 driveway for each duplex. And then on the 6th Street side, where, it's just single family homes over there, 1,500 square feet air conditioning. These are not little tiny homes. These are, relatively decent sized homes. My house is 18 or 1,900 square feet over on 6th Street, brand new. Next slide. Again, just a little closer look at that. Next slide. So some of the issues that I've heard from the last meeting, that we agree that we need this zoning change. I'm not sure I know what the East Stewart zoning change would do, but if everything I've been told, it doesn't really have any substantial effect on the development. We're proposing, as we said, 3 single family and 2 duplex units, 2 duplexes on this property. The plat, as we showed back there, I don't know if you could see the numbers, actually, there were 50-foot lots in the original plat of this. And then again, we're showing the mixtures of all these uses that are going on there. I guess at the last meeting, you guys were concerned that you really didn't have an idea of what this would look like. And so that's why we created this conceptual plan here with the setbacks proposed. So at the minimum, these are the requirements that they have to live with when they go to develop this. It is an infill piece. This is what you're going to see mostly now from now until you annex more property in the city. And to try to, again, to reduce the impacts to Martin Luther King Boulevard, we have provided 1 driveway for each unit, which would give them some parking on site for these two spaces for each unit on site. With regard to everything else, again, urban network zoning, I don't know if we'll run into any issues with East Stewart zoning, but that's really done now at final approval with these building permits, and then this conceptual plan would be part of that, which they couldn't do anything more than this. We may do less, but we can't do more. And we mean, consistency of the surrounding area. The one other thing that I had heard from the meeting before was into discussion was that there was a request basically to highlight that this was East Stewart. And so I'm back on that site plan. I didn't point out, but in the corner on Palm Beach Road and Martin Luther King Boulevard, we've done a 25-foot corner clip to allow the city to put up another sign like they have up by the Selfish Park ball fields. I think that is it. I'd rather get into questions. Mr. Hartman is in the audience if he would like to talk about, his, this is just showing you all of the requirements that we went through to make sure that we were consistent for this meeting. Mr. Hartman is in the audience. If he'd like to talk a little bit about his family and their connection to this area, I would think that would also be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Quazzo.
Yeah, well, you can do it if you want to.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's for the microphone.
Either way,
Yeah.
It works on here.
whatever works for you.
Yeah. Keep it clean.
Keep clean. I'll do my best.
All right.
But you're only a
appreciate it.
7th generation, right?
Yeah.
No,
Reed gets the 8th.
I'm
No, his children are the 8th, right?
Does that mean, is
10th
Peter
and
7th or an 8th?
10th and 11th. I appreciate those comments, Don, but it's more important when you walk outside the door, you see the first mayor. That's my great-grandfather,
McDonald.
This plat and this subdivision over here is called the McDonald subdivision. That was my great-grandfather that did that. So what we're trying to do is develop some kind of housing that's attainable, affordable. I don't know the proper term, but we want to make it such that people can have a place to live. My dad, I mean, we'll go a little further. My dad over on Stitman, he was born there in 24. If you go down to 10th Street, go over across from J.D. Parker, we moved there in 1954. So I've been running down those streets forever. And I hope everybody understands we're going to try to do something that's good for the community. And so we'll go through questions from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, if before we go into public comment, if I can read a public comment that I've submitted to the dais, it came to me by email.
Sure.
Would you like me to do that this time or before public comment starts?
When you read it, would you indicate how many signatures there are to this? I have no.
Okay, it's just the one signature. It's just the one. It was
Okay.
by email.
Single email from someone.
It
One
was
email.
from someone,
Okay,
yeah.
I thought he was representing a group.
Sure. I think it'd be good to read it now.
Okay, I can do that. This was an email to me this afternoon. Dear Stephen Mayer, Senior Planner, and Community Redevelopment Board members. As property owners, and I believe it's because it's two persons, and I'll read the names. As property owners in the surrounding area of the above referenced parcel, we are notified that the Lone Palm Property Investments LLC wanted a zoning change to accommodate its plan to build 7 single-family and duplex structures on this parcel. This parcel is less than 3/4 of an acre, approximately 31,493 square feet. It is currently zoned single-family general R1, and according to the MLS sales listing, could accommodate 1 single-family residence facing 6th Street, 1 single-family residence facing MLK Boulevard, or 3 single families fronting Palm Beach Road. Now, Lone Palm Investment wants to double the density of this parcel to 7 single-family units and a combination of single-family residence and duplexes. We oppose this plan for the following reasons. 1, the crowding of 7 tiny homes into such a small area will negatively impact the market values of every property owner in our neighborhood. The majority of existing homes in the surrounding neighborhoods range from approximately 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, single-family homes on 8,000 to 10,000 square foot lots. And there are no duplexes. 2, the addition of 7 additional housing units on this parcel will create increased traffic and congestion along 6th Street, MLK Boulevard, and Palm Beach Road, as well as surrounding neighborhood streets of Cortez Street, Lake Claire Place, Stipnet Boulevard, etc. And 3, additional concerns include how 7 tiny houses will be shoehorned into this small parcel, along with adequate landscaping, drainage, lighting, architectural integrity, and green building requirements that will make it compatible with the existing old Florida neighborhood currently surrounding it. The last thing we want added to this neighborhood are ugly tiny homes that stick out like sore thumbs, like those oversized buildings on the corner of East Ocean Boulevard and Hibiscus and Coconut Streets. Thank you for the opportunity to voice our concerns about this required change to our neighborhood's zoning. Sincerely, Betty and Gail Cipra, 531 Southeast Lake Claire Place. Stewart.
Okay. Thank you. I think we can move on to public comment now. Do we have anyone here for public comment on this? Yes, come on up. Dave, could you get the, oh, thank you. Good evening again.
Good evening. Donald Duffy. I live on MLK Boulevard, and I'm opposed to the project. The simple fact is, 'cause when I brought my property, it says residential, single family, and that's what I thought that would be. And I've been there now for 10 years, but I've been in the area ever since I was born, and I'm 50 years old. And like I said, MLK is a fair way for the emergency systems to go out, such as ambulance, fire trucks, and whatever. And also, we have Stuart Miller School on that same road, and their buses come down there through the mornings and the afternoons. And also, Palm Beach Road is a main way to get from the hospital to downtown, and then other traffic come through there also. So that's
Understood.
it's a busy fairway on that end. And then like he said that there are duplexes all through ML Boulevard, which is not true. The only way that you have duplexes on the opposite end, that's from Tar Pond back up to the rail tracks there, which is what is that? A1A.
Mm-hmm.
But up until Tar Pond and MLK, those are single family homes. And also over on 6th Street, there are single family homes. So why would you want to put duplexes into a single family home residential area?
Well, there are apartment complexes on MLK as well.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Are there not?
No.
The Cherokee's not an MLK?
Well, the Cherokee.
Well, Cherokee is
no longer really.
That's
Well, whatever it was, it is now.
Yeah, what will it be again?
yeah. But
Public comment?
Yeah.
yeah, but from Tar Pond back until MLK Boulevard, those are single family homes. And I do not agree for him to have duplexes on that end there. And also, if he could pull it up, where he say he's gonna allow the city to put a
Yes.
sign or whatever.
Yeah.
You got the ambulance going out there, the fire truck going out there. Would that obstruct their view from going out? And how far back is it gonna be set back from the road? And also, if you put those, what are they, trees? If you could pull it up. See along Palm Beach Road, there are those one, two,
On the corner?
Yes, right.
Mm-hmm.
See those 3 trees there?
Yeah, I think
The
that's some
trees that-
foliage and,
Right, and then the trees on the opposite right here on Palm Beach Road there.
yes. The trees
Yeah,
along.
how tall are they gonna be? And you know, how far out are they gonna be?
Well, certainly they're gonna meet compliance if they're gonna.
I understand, but with setback and everything.
Understood.
But like I said, and 3 houses on the other side on 6th Street,
Mm-hmm.
and the property only requires you to have 1 single family house on each property. So what are you saying? If I decide to build on my property, you're gonna let me do the same thing?
Well, like we were talking about, nothing really is precedence around here. Each case is individual.
Right. But I understand, but I don't agree with having duplexes on
Duly
MLK
noted.
or either on the other side either. Because like I said, it's just, I don't agree with it because it wasn't zoned for it. If it was zoned for it, you should have been that way from the beginning. So why go ahead and change the rules? If that's the case, if I drive down the road and I go past the stop sign and the cop pulled me over and say, well, why'd you go past the stop sign? Well, I could go to the city and have you guys change the rules and say, well, he can go past the stop sign because we changed the rules.
Thank you very much.
Could you indicate where your home is?
My home is on 916.
916.
Yes, that's 3 houses back from the corner of Martin Luther King.
Okay, 3 houses back from.
Yes, it would be 16, I believe.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. How are you? Good. Please state your name and address.
No,
You can fill out that afterwards. Oh,
No.
oh, you're waiting. Got it.
That lady in the back.
Yes, ma'am. Great.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosario Valdivieso. I lived in 930 Southeast 6th Street. So if this is approved, I will have 3 new neighbors,
Mhm.
very much on top of my house. Most of these houses, like it was described before, is the old Florida style. The houses are small. Mine is only like 1,200 square footage.
Mhm.
The beauty of it is the big lots, the big property on the front, the big property on the back. None of those houses are, we don't see the neighbor's windows, none of them. And the way the street curves, you know, we all have privacy and enough room. I was here in the last meeting. I said a number of things. I don't want to expand myself too much. I'm really opposed to this. It's not what I was looking for when I bought this house, which was just past November. I'm not new to Stewart. I lived in Martin County for over 30 some years. And I planned my retirement home in a neighborhood like this, quiet and big, nature around, a lake nearby. I want to second everything that was read on that email. I think those neighbors wrote it beautifully, so I will not repeat, but I second everything that says there, and I would like to have our voice heard. I appreciate it. I'm a registered voter. I'm very conscientious. I work for the court system. And to actually put so many families in that little tiny space doesn't go with the rest of the neighborhood. That other street, the house on the left, they sit in 1 acre. So what tells us that in a few years that family moves away and decide to build 10 houses in that? So that's what we're opening the doors to. So that's what I think about when they say like they're gonna. I'm all in favor of affordable houses. Okay, I understand that. They can build 2 houses on my side on 6th Street. They can be affordable. Why have to be 3?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else?
My name is Frank Bauman. I live on Lake Claire Place. That's the little street that you see
Mm-hmm.
going straight up there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I live on the corner.
All right, so are you number 20?
Where the arrow is?
20?
I am a little bit down to the left. Yeah, right.
Right there. Okay.
Okay.
Like affordable housing, just like you were talking about with that whole project downtown.
Mhm.
This is not going to be affordable housing. It's half a mile from the hospital. It's a mile from downtown. We're not talking about affordable housing here. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. I agree with what everybody else said. Too many houses too close together. Another thing that was mentioned at that project was, where does the water go? Yeah, because you're going to build up that lot. That water's going to go in the road. Yeah, in Palm Beach Road. It's going to go in 6th Street. It's going to go Martin Luther King, and it's going to go in the lot next door. So I don't know if anybody thought about that. I think it's a bad plan to do this. And I think basically everybody in the neighborhood thinks it's a bad plan.
Thank you.
Could you fill out a card?
I did.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that'd like to speak on behalf of this?
Yes.
Great.
Good afternoon. My name's Brooks Dubois. I live at 908 Southeast 6th Street. I'm the, where am I at? Right there, number 10, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like the last meeting that we came to a month or 2 ago, duplexes on MLK, to me, that's just going to ruin the neighborhood. And to answer your question about the zoning, I guess that's right past the police station or the police station. So I don't know what those buildings are zoned, but as you can see, it's not R1. So if that answers your question about that. And I guess that's yellow right there. They just cleared the lot. I think it's going to be a daycare or something. So even that's zoned different. So we're residential. You're introducing duplexes into a residential area, you know? So to me, that's wrong. looks good on paper, how they designed it, you know, with all the driveways and everything. But if you notice, we got a lot of duplex areas off East Ocean. They were nice when the elderly community was there. They started selling them to investors. So that's over near Circle K or whatever it is now.
East Parkway and
right.
Super K.
So, but those, you know, they're coming back, but you know, there's a lot of nonsense going around there. So you introduce duplexes into a neighborhood that's all residential, that just brings nonsense to the neighborhood. You know, I was at a commissioner meeting, last month, about listening to the community. You know, what does the community want? It was all kumbaya, all that good stuff. You got the community here. So we live in the neighborhood. We have families, you know, we look out for each other. So if you're going to listen to the community and change what we think our people have the image with government and boards like this, this is the time to do it. All right. So it's good to give lip service, but if you don't do anything about it, why are y'all here? Why don't we just let people do what they want, you know? So now's the time, really listen to the community. And they're here, they're voicing their opinion. That's the right thing to do. So hopefully y'all are gonna make the right decision.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not like nobody wants to prevent anybody from making some money, right? You can put a couple of houses on that lot and make a lot of money. But this is going to be looking like it's greedy, a little bit too much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Hi. I'm Faith Coleman. My husband is in the back. We're 941 6th Street. We would be the house directly in front of the three houses. And
Right there.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I just stand to say that that email described everything that we wanted to say. So that's it. I don't want to stand before you long, but we do oppose it. I agree with everyone who came up before us.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Do we have anyone else? No, we don't. Okay. Of course you can.
Your microphone.
I think mine's more of a clarification question. The lines on the screen now show 6. What's the difference between that and the email that said that there would only be 1 on each side?
So I think in the email, they were counting the units individually and calling them 7 single-family homes because each duplex is 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So it could be 6 currently, correct, with the 6 boxes?
If I can, I guess if I can answer. The dotted lines that you see on this right here, and this is the underlying, is platted. It's what was platted, subdivided in 1920-ish.
Yeah.
And it was platted for 6 50-foot lots. The current zoning of the property, R1, would not allow this to subdivide into 6 lots anymore because we have new zoning rules for lot width. And the new zoning rules for lot width is 75 feet wide. Therefore, the 50s would not work. What they could do, what the applicant could do with this property is subdivide this into 4 75-foot wide lots. And that would work because this width right here is 150 feet. So you could do 75 and 75 on if this would be one configuration, obviously, but you could do 75, 75 here, and you can do 75 and 75 here. This distance here would result to be 110 foot depth lots. So 75 by 110 is also meets the area requirements of our current zoning.
Thank you.
Yes.
So whose motion was it?
Yours.
Was
Yours.
it mine?
For discussion too.
Well, then I'm going to make the motion to approve using East Stewart overlay as the zoning change.
Can I just go through that for clarification?
Yes, please.
You would need to have a future land use change to East Stewart. To go with that, you would need a zoning change to the single family duplex sub-district of East Stewart. And then to go with that, you would need an East Stewart conditional use.
Okay.
And when do we do that?
And I think you're saying okay in that it ends up in this, just like as if they were going to use the other
Well,
overlay.
what it sounds to me is what Kevin is describing would require, if it's a different conditional use, it would mean that we'll be back.
Yeah. You mean, well,
that if it's
unless you made a condition in your.
But I would make that condition because as when we spoke yesterday, you didn't seem to have.
I didn't know that it was,
Well, we had a conversation. I didn't have a chance to really go through the various steps that it would need. If we did, and I didn't do the analysis at that moment in time. If we did go to East Stewart, then there's consequences of doing that in terms of processing. I think we have to use the East Stewart conditional use to go over, to be able to do a conditional use in that zoning district.
what are we currently doing?
We'd be going to we'd be going to the downtown redevelopment, the urban neighborhood, which then would allow major urban conditional use. Because we would be going to East Stewart. That's a good question, actually, because the East Stewart conditional use, would that only apply in the East Stewart district or the East Stewart land use?
Well, I considered that when I looked at it yesterday and said that I didn't, or at the beginning of this meeting and said I didn't believe that would require additional notice to the public, was because I thought that essentially what we noticed for today's hearing was a change of the land use for a future land use modification from the current R1 status to what was being proposed as urban neighborhood. But instead of being urban neighborhood, we were simply substituting East Stewart. So due process wise, it's the land use notification happens. And then once we got to East Stewart being the land use as an underlying or overlying land use, I looked at that and I said, well, East Stewart only goes to 17 units an acre, whereas urban neighborhood goes to 30. So as a result, it was a lesser restrictive land use, so I wasn't concerned about the notice. Then when I got to East Stewart, I said to myself, okay, then we're still doing what I consider to be an urban code conditional use in East Stewart.
Yeah.
So if in walking through it, and I would stand by the opinion that I think that Kevin's process is right. If it's going to go in front of the commission, we would have to restructure it for all of those things. But I still believe that the notice that was provided in the newspaper and the notice that was provided to the residents that are here today, the urban neighborhood versus East Stewart overlay zone is simply an overlay zone. They were provided adequate notice that there was a density increase taking place, and as a result, the due process would have been met. So we can do it and then switch it and do what Kevin said without coming back to you, but just go straight to the CRA.
I don't want to see it come back to us, but I do want to not have spot zoning. And even in the presentation, possible creation of an isolated district unrelated to adjacent and nearby districts. The proposed rezoning to urban neighborhood would create an isolated rezoning classification regarding adjacent classifications of zoning. However, the property is within the CRA and it in proximity to East Stewart zoning district. The East Stewart zoning district allows up to 17 acres, 17 units per lot, per acre, and 50 unit lots. This is classic spot zoning. And I want to approve this project, but I'm not going to approve spot zoning. So unless we could figure out a way to change the zoning, I am voting no. Not because I don't want this project.
Your motion, by the way, your motion
Yes,
is to change the zoning to East Stewart neighborhood.
yes.
It is my opinion right now that by doing that, it can still move forward with that being its motion to the CRA, rather than having to start from scratch
Okay.
and go back. If that changes, I'll have to take that up with the applicant, but I don't see any reason, I'm consulting with these guys, I don't see any
Okay.
reason why that won't happen.
So then I will make that motion to approve, because I think the project, the way the apartments have now positioned it, took care of driveways, took care of the other problems that and we just can't stop development because we don't like having any new houses. And I also understand, being part of having built things, that it has to be economical. It has to make sense. And single-family homes at that price point, to build only 4 units, there's no profit for these guys. I mean, when you finish building the homes, there's just no profit. So we will never get another single-family home. We have to adjust the way we do things in order to make things practical. And I think they've adjusted it with the driveways. I think they've done everything that was really concerning. So I don't have a problem with the project. The only thing I'm going to ask them to do, and I spoke to you on the phone, Reed, is to put up some sort of a hedge around the property so that it does not show to the neighbors. And that could be, I think I'm saying it right, Exorbia. It grows fast, it grows tall, it's green, and it hides a multiple SID. So whatever you guys, whatever is decided. But I think that would be my only other condition to move forward.
Well, is that a condition? I've added that, the hedge is a condition. Okay.
So if you're saying what I think you're saying, and I never am sure what staff is saying half the time, because that's how they survive.
So we have a motion with some conditions
Yes.
that Mr. Martell has written down.
Could I just ask for one clarification on the hedge? The exact location is going to be only on the northern.
No, it's going to be on the front of both 6th and MLK.
On the front of
Yes,
the.
because what we're
property.
trying to do is not have those houses just stick out, because they are closer than they were
Okay.
in the
Okay,
before.
appreciate that, thank you.
So hedge to the driveways?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion was, so the motion was to approve the agenda item, substituting urban neighborhood overlay zone for East Stewart overlay zone, conditionalized on adoption of that site plan with the inclusion of a hedge on the
Along
frontage for
MLK
all
and
properties.
along 6th Street.
Okay.
May I talk about the hedge for a minute?
I see no reason why not.
Would you include it along the upper area?
Do you have a problem with that? All right, then yes,
I
include
mean,
it
I'm
along
thinking
the
of the
upper.
neighbors that
Absolutely.
are upstream of them with larger houses
Fine.
and larger lots.
I have no problem with that, if it can be done.
Can I say something about that? No?
No.
Well,
I mean, we've taken public comment. Do you want to do this?
Except for now we've amended the motion.
Okay,
so we're gonna have
absolutely.
to-
I'm
we have to
following the
open it
rules.
back up. Yeah.
Please come on up.
Lady in the back.
Okay.
All right, me being a grandfather and my kids, you're gonna put a hedge along 6th Street and MLK. All right, you want these affordable for families? So you have a little kid on a bicycle going down the driveway, you got a hedge blocking. It's kind of ludicrous what y'all are wanting. Hedges in the front, that's gonna block the driver's view. And trust me, I've seen it a lot. So y'all are taking this way too far with the hedges. I mean, you know, to me, that's a safety issue for families with kids. So you're gonna put hedges there, and trust me, there's a lot of kids around. You know, you gotta think about this. You just can't throw stuff at this to make this thing work. You know? So you got MLK right there, which I drive down. There's speeders sometimes, you know, you got emergency, speeding down with their lights. You put hedges, it's gonna be a safety nightmare for families. You know,
Not to make a point, but couldn't that happen with or without hedges?
huh?
Couldn't that happen with or without hedges?
Yeah, but it's.
So what's your point?
You can't see visible with hedges. Someone coming on a tricycle or a little bike. Trust me, I raise kids, everybody's raised kids, but, and one other thing, duplexes, if you got duplexes there on the site plan thing, but you're calling them single family?
They were calling single family, actually.
Right.
This is the email that came in.
It says duplex right there. So,
Wait a minute, as a developer, we call them duplex. The email said single family.
That's right. That's what I was saying.
But a duplex is a
And the other
duplex.
thing is,
Yeah, it is a duplex.
Let's, guys,
Wait
we
a
can't
second.
have a
Yeah.
debate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I make a point of clarification on the staff report?
Please.
Our land development code references duplexes as single family.
I understand. Please, ma'am. Please come up to the microphone.
During the last meeting, it wasn't clear, now that they're bringing a design and a layout of houses and specific sizes and all that. Does that mean they are the builders? They're gonna break ground and do this and then sell it? Or they're gonna sell the lot for whoever wants to buy it?
No,
and build
they're going to develop it. They're going to do this.
They're building this as design in there.
Mhm.
Okay. And then you also said that they're gonna put hedges.
Well, that's what Mr. Campenny is suggesting.
motion.
Yes, he's saying he wants foliage around the place, and maybe hedge isn't the way, but he's trying to add some greenscape that will somehow soften the blow of these. I see what he's got in mind. It's good intentions.
Four sides of it. Or they were just like on the front?
Well, we're adding as we go. We're talking about it and saying, hey, how can we do this in the best way possible?
And that really ought to be done with the applicant and staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And well, being builders, then that makes me think of one more question. If this is approved, when do they see to start breaking ground and this project starting? Is it,
Yeah, we haven't, this is the beginning.
first step? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Those duplexes
Yes, sir.
for the community, single family and low income housing, right?
Well, I don't know about low income housing.
Okay. Being disabled, can't even think now.
What kind of compliance is going to go with this?
Right, what are they required?
They're going to have to meet,
What are they
they're going to have to meet the
required? Yeah.
compliance that every new builder has to
So
meet.
they know this. Cause over in that, what you're saying, over in some of those places, they don't meet those requirements. So I would like for them to meet those requirements for a disabled person.
They're certainly
An elderly
supposed to.
person, not only just disabled in the wheelchair, but an elderly person also, you know. But like I said, hey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I want to call the question.
Okay.
Need to verify that there's no other online or
Okay.
public.
Dave, there's nobody in the public that's, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I understand correctly now, it's Mr. Campanini. Yeah, you're against spot zoning, right? And this sounds like spot zoning to you. So you're saying we do the whole East Stewart? Is that correct?
I don't answer questions, public comment. You can say whatever you want and I'll just.
You don't answer no questions?
No.
That's not the process, really.
All right.
Usually,
Yeah.
I mean, we do make.
Okay, the way I understand it is you're against the spot zoning and you want basically the whole East Stewart to be rezoned in order for this project to go on. Is that correct?
No, sir.
I think that's an implication, that's not true.
No.
That's the way I'm hearing it.
That's not correct?
No. The way I understand, he would like this, he understands spot zoning, does not like spot zoning. I'm going to explain for you. even
Well,
though-
I don't know that you need to explain for him so much as
What he
what
should
is going,
understand-
what we're going forward with right here.
Mr. Walson was speaking,
Yeah.
but he
Mr.
was speaking, so,
It's
okay.
not what he said, and I'm really tired of people twisting what people say. That's all.
I'm not trying to twist, not what anybody's saying.
So
I'm not gonna fight with you.
spot zoning was urban neighborhood because it wasn't a zoning use that was within 7 blocks of this location.
Okay.
East Stewart overlay zoning is not spot zoning because I don't think anybody in this room disputes that that location is directly adjacent to the East Stewart neighborhood. It
It's
will
not
be
in
now.
either.
It's
not
to,
in
it's
either
to
of them.
expand the East Stewart neighborhood to include it. That's what the motion is.
You know, I'm just an amateur here, you know, we're not old. We don't know the jargon, right? But from what I understand, spot zoning is you single out one particular property and there's special rules for this one particular property all of a sudden,
Correct.
right?
That, and if it had urban neighborhood overlay zone, Mr. Kempenny's opinion was that urban neighborhood was identifying one parcel of property in that whole area that would have particular rules assigned to it different than the others. This, with an East Stewart overlay zone, will have the exact same rules as any other neighborhood or property in the East Stewart neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they too could come forward and ask for an urban code exception under the East Stewart overlay zone regulations. And that's Mr. Kempenny's position was he only wanted them to have the rights that an East Stewart property would have, not the rights that something over in Potsdam or something that was north of the Roosevelt Bridge, because he didn't deem that that was close enough to justify the overlay zone.
Okay, that's all a little bit too technical for me, to be honest. The way it looks to me, it's, you're singling out one piece of property and you give it a special treatment.
Yes, please, Mr. Hartman.
Change is difficult, right? And I look back at East Stewart being JB, the McDonald plat, and that was my great-great-grandfather who developed it. And the reason he developed it was because he believed everyone should own a home. And I can only imagine what he went through to plat that property then to make sure that people could own a home. And I feel like it's kind of coming full circle. And we're back to that point. And change is difficult.
Thank you.
I think he called the question.
I call the question.
Okay, so we, again, have a new motion with conditions. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Pete seconded, I'm sorry, I wasn't
Well, I
sure.
didn't, but I will.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. And we've taken public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Guys on there?
Are they still there?
I don't know. Are you guys there, Frank?
Why don't you call a roll call?
Let's do a roll call.
You want to do, okay.
Nathan Ritchie,
Aye.
Faye James, Lincoln Penny,
Yes.
Pete Wilson,
No.
Katie Simpson. Yes. Lewis,
No.
Seconded it?
We'll get to a vote.
Got it. No problem.
Mr.
I'm just
Waka?
making sure I was keep going.
Mr. Waka?
Yes.
There you go.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it has to get to a vote.
Understood.
Okay. Passes 4-2.
Yes.
Frank left me to start,
Okay,
so he left me to spend, so I'm still back.
got it. Thank you. We're going to move on to our next item. Ms. Jane's no longer in the meeting. Yeah, because she's not in the meeting any
Yeah,
longer.
but we can't, that's what happens. The chair vote doesn't count because she left.
You still have quorum.
Yes,
There's
it's
still
a-
enough members. So it's 4-2.
Yeah, to me, yeah.
Okay. Our next item is item number
Mr.
5.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Do you have a quorum? I have somewhere that I am really supposed to be at right now. Or in minutes that I have to go to. Do you have a quorum without me?
We do.
We have 4.
We have 5.
And Chris is online, so we have 5. Yeah, you're fine.
Okay, then I have to take off. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input.
I would suggest if we go this long next time, we have coffee available.
Or something, right? So item number 5, which is R97-2020 Walton Building, 33 degrees. I guess I'm the reader.
We've started.
All right. This is why I don't make breakfast.
I'm happy to
No, it's
jump
so
in
that he can
here.
find where he is.
This is a resolution, 97-2020, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, granting a major urban code conditional use approval to 111 Real Estate Holdings LLC, owner of the property located in the City of Stuart as described within the attached legal description, granting approval for the relocation of the historic Walton Building, which is known as 33 degrees, from city right-of-way at Decker Avenue to the north side of parking lot located at 209 South Albany Avenue, allowing the front building facade to be a setback from the front property line for the facade width of the relocated building to be less than 80% of the lot width, and forego the requirement for the minimum building height of 2 stories for arcades or glazed openings and balconies along the street facade, providing an effective date, providing for a timetable of relocation, providing for conditions of approval, and for all other purposes.
Thank you.
And I think our staff member can take it from there.
I move approval, resolution.
I second, but I need one question asked. Answered, rather. We're gonna have a grease trap there?
We are. Yes.
I second. Unless somebody wants to have.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I could go through one slide of my presentation
Sure
that
you can.
included conditions and.
Yeah, that way
So it would
it's
be-
nice to have on record.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Did you want me to start from the beginning or the
I
condition
want you to
sheet?
go where, what you think is pertinent to mention.
Well, there's a motion and a second on the floor. I don't know that there's a universal vote for it, so it's at the risk of the applicant. I mean, if it doesn't get 4 votes.
Yeah.
This will be a brief
Please go on.
presentation.
Please
Yes.
go on.
Okay.
We got to be
Tom Reeds
fair,
for the
even if we're in a
record. Thank
hurry.
you, Chair. Good evening, Tom Reeds for the record. So this is a urban code conditional use to relocate the historic Walton Building to the parking lot at 209 Albany Avenue. The applicant is Mark Breckbill. You can see the location on your screen. It's a parcel in and of itself that has just a parking lot that supports the 3 buildings to the west. So the requested variances are to allow the historic building to be set back from the front property line, to allow for brick pavers, for the front building to be less than 80% of the lot width, to forego the requirement of a minimum building height of 2 stories, and also to forego the requirement for arcades and glazed openings and balconies on the street facade. So there's the relocated building in the parking lot, taking up 3 of the existing spaces, the brick pavers I spoke about earlier, grease trap, and the line going from the grease trap into the city's utility lines. The conditions prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall either contribute the required art fee of 1% of the vertical construction cost, including the new foundation, or provide a work of art on the development pursuant to Section 3 of the Land Development Code. Also, we're asking that the applicant be given a time limit to make this move and to receive a certificate of occupancy by August 31st of 2021. There's also a condition that staff has added that requires the applicant to plat this new configuration on the parking lot before we issue a certificate of occupancy. I know the applicant wants to talk about the public art aspect to the development and also possibly the platting of the aspect of the site plan.
Okay. Thank you. Mark?
Thank you, guys, and gals.
Don't talk too much, I'll take my second.
No, I'm not. I know I got a second already, so I'm not gonna blow that. But for the record, I wanted to be in the record that, this is a historic building. It is a significant building. Fred Walton was a contractor who built the Lyric Theater. He was instrumental in building a couple of apartments around town. He was instrumental in doing the cement work on the Franz Apartments. So he was really kind of our first major builder that came in. And this building was his office. That was the first building, the first commercial building west of the tracks. So he's also he's the grandfather of Mary Jones, and her family's been around a long time, and as I said, built a lot of stuff here. So I just wanted on the record to understand that this is not a development. It's just a movement of a historic building that I think we need to preserve. It is historic architecture in town, and I think we need to move it. For that reason, there is no vertical construction. We're just moving it from where it was 100 feet away to where it is now. So that's why I don't think the public art really applies. Although I have a sailfish marker, historical marker right there on that site that I'm very happy to add this property to that marker to add that as a historical feature for the property and an art feature for the property.
Are we giving that up as an exemption, or he's trying to get something?
Yeah. Is the building the art feature?
Well, I think so.
Definitely isn't.
Yes, it is. But yes, I think that between the building
It's an old
itself,
construction trailer, so let's just approve it and move on, and Mark wants it.
and then the last thing I'm going to say is that I just want to explain that property won't be platted per se, according to, it's going to be part of the condominium association that's being created for that whole property. So that's how we make sure that it'll all be taken care of. It'll all be under a maintenance agreement.
That's all, that's fine with me, except for the fact that this site plan approval is tying up that whole parking lot. And so it won't be able to be subdivided. It won't be able to be sold off because that building will become non-compliant upon anything. When you start doing the measurement of how many feet it has of waiver as far as the frontage, that's based on the entire width of the parking lot.
Well, that's why
all
it'll
those
be
conditions create an obligation on this. That's why I recommended carving it out and making a smaller lot out of it or something.
Well,
but you don't want to. I get it. You
Yeah,
don't have
it's going to be part, that's why it's going to be part of a condominium association.
But the condominium association has nothing to do with the city. I don't care if God himself maintains the parking lot. The city is not a party to the condominium association, so it doesn't matter. The city's only condition is this order. This order is going to say that the parcel that the restaurant is on is X feet wide and X feet long. And I'm looking at it right there on that
Right.
site plan. That site plan is going to be binding. And if the parking space in the bottom left of that picture gets removed, this site plan will be out of compliance.
Well, when I file the condominium documents, that'll all become common property, and by land use, it'll be.
Does this have anything to do with this?
I don't know.
think he's
Are we going to be a
wording it.
party
I
to the
think he's
condo?
wording more.
Yeah.
No, the condominium documents have nothing to do with the city. If you don't get voting rights on it, you don't get to see them.
I don't
They can
really
be
care about
modified by.
Yeah, I don't
anybody.
see where it makes, I'm just saying, it's going to be taken care of from a plating standpoint.
Are you gonna do
Yes.
something that's gonna violate the site plan?
No,
Is the condominium gonna do something to
No.
violate the site?
If that's up to the city, then.
Then you don't have anything to worry about, right?
no, I don't have anything to worry about.
What this is right here is, do we approve this?
Yes,
And
so we have a motion in a second.
and again, the thing that you wanted to bring to attention is that there is,
The condition that public art is required and
and
that,
Mark is suggesting that
yes,
there isn't.
that's right.
Condition that's in my second.
I can't hear because Tom's talking.
Yes, I mean, if you make the approval based on staff's recommendation, public art will be required and required to be approved at a later hearing.
Yes, I understand.
So,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm having a trouble wrapping my head around the removal of the historic building compared to the construction of apartments on the river, that the movement and replacement of building on an empty piece of land requires art. Sure. I really am. I cannot wrap my head around it.
yeah, so did we for a while, but we looked at the code and we determined that the relocation of this building falls into the substantial improvement category. And in fact, public work does require, in other words,
My vote might not matter, but I will withhold my vote and not, I will vote no if that's included.
Okay, well, it's your motion. You can,
Yeah,
make a change.
I'm removing that as a condition.
And I'm removing my second vote.
Okay. I need another second, Mr. Chairman. I will make the resolution, removing the condition on the public.
Oh, you're removing the condition. I thought you were removing your.
No, I'm removing the condition on.
So the current motion is to approve without an art contribution.
Yes. I can't wrap my head about why it's necessary. That's like government overreach.
So do I still have a second from you? You don't, I don't have a second from you. Okay, so we have a motion.
I'll second that.
You will, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any other public comment? No? Okay, all in.
By roll call?
Yeah, you need a roll call.
Oh, we got a roll call for this. Oh, because we're down to.
Well, it's an approval itself, and it's
Mhm.
this is where it counts.
Katie Jacobson? Yes. Pete Walson?
Yes.
Tom Compenny?
No.
Nathan Ritchie?
Let me just verify your motioning to approve this, but without the recommendation of public art piece. That's right?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see.
No problem. I
where
just need to
an
verify.
old building on another piece of land it's not construction to me and does
The
not
city's
require-
perspective is it's a vacant parking lot, and it's going to have a building on it.
Having a vote.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay, so my vote is no without a public art piece.
Frank is gone, correct?
Right.
So Chris
Chris
remains.
is still here.
Yes,
We got a yes from you?
we got a yes.
Okay,
We're done.
we're done, so approved. Let's move on to the next
How
one.
easy that was.
Yeah, very easy. Thank you. Okay, where are we, Nathan?
We are on a contemporary art exhibit in gazebo park.
Are we all ready to stop talking about zoning for 5 minutes?
Please, what are you going to talk to us about? Art and
It's gonna be
beautiful
okay
stuff?
with me.
Okay, so
You can
we're-
make this complicated.
yeah,
No.
we're pros.
You could.
We are pros.
Good evening,
So
Chair
this is
and
item number
board.
6. Excuse me one moment.
Yep.
Presentation on contemporary art exhibit in Gazebo Park. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the board. I'm Susan Corres. I'm the manager for the Office of Community Development in Martin County. And in the county, the Office of Community Development, with its very unfortunate acronym of OCD, we manage 3 key activities, and those activities are we manage and implement the 6 CRA areas, redevelopment areas, the Martin County Art and Public Places Program, and the Martin County Historic Preservation Program. So tonight it's going to be all about art for me. Just to give you a little background. Oh, is that loading or? We're missing a few things on there. To give you a little
Here it
background,
comes.
there we go. The county has an inventory of about 15 artworks, and they range from different disciplines, from ceramics to sculpture to photography, stained glass, frescoes. And they are, for the most part, pretty small scale and fairly traditional. You can see a few of them here. So we've taken advantage of a unique opportunity that's come our way recently, and that is the purchase of 5 large contemporary sculptures by an award-winning artist by the name of Mr. Gary Gresco. So I've included in the presentation a little bit about each piece and some description from the artist, along with some specifications. So that should give you an idea of the color and the scale, you know, what exactly we're talking about. So this is the first one. It's called Transponder. It's the tallest at 11 feet. It is, believe it or not, not the heaviest. And you can see that, you know, in the specs, you have minimal maintenance, it's hurricane proof, that type of thing. Okay, good. Then you're excused.
Let's go bathroom. I'm following him after.
All right.
That figures, right? I'm at the end. What are you going to do? The next one is called Tumbling Towards the Sun. This is an award-winning sculpture from a show in North Carolina. And it is a little bit smaller. It looks real small in this picture compared to the others, but it's actually 7 feet tall. And it is the heaviest one in this collection. It's 1,200 pounds. Most of these sculptures need to be bolted to a cement pad, as this one is as well. This one is called Yap Money Stones. And yes, there is actually an island of Yap in the South Pacific, believe it or not. And the artist gives you a little description. This one is a little bit different than the others. This one is installed directly into the ground, not into a cement pad. And these stones themselves are about 300 pounds or a little bit less depending on their size. So you can see that they are not going to move. Number 4 is called Silent Sounds of Service. This is an aluminum piece, so it's a lot lighter than the others. It's also our only kinetic one. So you can see that this area here would be the part that spins and would also be the part that would need to be removed in case we had hurricane force winds. So 60 miles and above would be the artist's recommendation that we would remove the middle, just that middle piece. All of the others, again, are installed in cement pads and don't need to be removed for any kind of hurricane force winds. And then the last one is called Red Angle. It's a fiberglass and steel piece. And again, same situation as all of the others. So if this evening you approve the installation and exhibition of these sculptures, we're going to have Gresco at the gazebo because that's where we're looking to install. But first I'm going to tell you a little bit about the artist. He's an award-winning sculptor. He has works exhibited and installed throughout the southeastern US from Pennsylvania to Florida. He's got 9 public art commissions in North Carolina alone, and he's now a resident of Barefoot Bay, Florida. He's been a part of the South Florida artist, or I should say artistic community for the past 5 years. And his passion is working in different mediums. He sculpts in cement, wood, steel, and you can see a couple of his installations down here. Most of the work that he's done is for cities and universities. So this is our installation site. We're looking at Gazebo Park and Stewart, corner of Southeast Ocean and Flagler. And if you're not familiar with it, it's actually equipped with 6, you can see 3 in this picture, 6 cement pads, which were put there specifically to have installations of public art. So we're proposing that that's where this installation would go. And we're working with Martin County Arts Council, as well as the City of Stewart Art Program, and hoping to market this, promote it, get the installation and the exhibit going.
I think it'll look super cool.
Thank you. I agree. So here's the plan. Gotta have a plan. The plan is that we are getting the artwork delivered and installed by sometime in the fall of 2020. I am looking at November because it's before season, yet after hurricanes. Seems like a good time to do that. We'll have 4 pieces that'll be anchored directly into those cement pads that you saw, except for the money stones, which would go directly into the ground near a 5th pad. And we plan to have signage and information regarding the exhibit, about the pieces, about the artist, probably on the 6th pad or around the 6th pad. We will have an opening to introduce the exhibit to the community during season. We'd like them to remain in place for a minimum of 12 to 24 months, and then they'll be dispersed throughout the county as other areas become available. I think that this project is a winner, to be honest with you, for everybody. We're bringing new art to the community. It's promoting art education. I think it's going to be fun and interactive, and it's going to bring people downtown, which is always important to do, especially in these days. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So why do you only want to leave it there for 12 to 24 months instead of permanently and find other art for other places, since that's such an ideal place for that type of art?
Ownership.
That's actually, that's an excellent question. I wasn't really sure how the City of Stewart would want to work that. I wasn't sure if you'd want to have something there permanently.
I like the idea of dispersing them throughout the county and then getting another exhibit to
Well,
come
I
in.
mean, again, I don't have a problem. I mean, it's your art. You can do what you want with it, but if we're going through the
I
expense.
think Mark Brechtel's looking for some art.
Not anymore, he's not.
But
I can make a deal. I'm okay with that.
But unless, David, you think that would hurt the park for other things, and I don't think it would.
It depends on where it goes. See, the problem with the park is, we're talking about putting in gazebo park.
Yes.
So we don't own gazebo park.
Right.
So we don't have the right to make a permanent, we could easily do a license agreement or whatever, a short-term thing that fell within the confines of our interlocal agreement, but we can't bind, and I know you're coming from Martin County and it's a semantic, but it's still, the reality is, we can't bind Martin County to a permanent exhibit.
No, I'm just asking why it isn't a permanent exhibit. I mean, I'm not saying it should be or whether but I would think that Martin County would want to have, since that park is really pretty passive. And so whether it's these art, move these art, put something else in, you do have other artwork at someplace else, don't you?
We have 15 around the county, but they're nothing like these big sculptures, to be honest with you, and they're really not contemporary. So this is a completely new look, I think, for the county, and I think it'll be a lot of fun for everybody.
Well, again, I hope they're there for longer or other artwork continues to go there. So I make a move to approve.
I second, and then I'll make a comment that I think we should see how it works out. I think his point was well taken. It's not the largest park in the world.
Right.
And the placement of them and how they're placed and whether it interferes with people playing on the bandstand or sitting on the benches and eating lunch.
Well, as you said, the pads are there waiting. They're already there.
That's why they're there, yeah. That's why they were put there.
But
I was in the bathroom.
Oh, okay, so.
That's okay.
Yeah, there are
Here.
6 pads
See
already
these
in
little
place.
cement pads?
Okay.
Yep.
And so, and the idea is, I'm sorry, Pete, go
I'm gonna
ahead.
say if it works out fine and it's, it looks great, I have no problem with them staying permanently. But let's just see how they work out.
But I think your thought is that this is one artist and we have he gets his spot and then they disperse him and then the next artist comes in and this is their stuff.
Well, we've got, bigger plans in the future as well. I'd love to see some competitions happen. I mean, that could be the area that those things
Yeah, you
happen
might
in.
need the concrete basis for competition art where you hold the outside art review.
This is just for you. There's a wonderful program called Sculptures by the Sea in Australia where they bring in sculptures from around the world. It's a free event. Might be a great location for something like that.
It would absolutely be, yeah. Thank you.
Well, you are correct. This is way better than zoning. So we've got a motion and a second, and do we need to call a roll or can we just? Public comment.
Even though I bet whether they come.
I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Oh my
Come
God.
on, bring it down a notch.
Don't do it, Nancy. We're gonna approve
Short and
it.
sweet.
Rip up
Yeah,
her
come
green
on.
card.
I've got my green card. I obviously support this. When the county originally poured those sculpture pads, it was with the idea that we would do rotating sculpture exhibits in that space.
Yeah.
Then we found out the Art and Public Places ordinance at the time didn't allow for the use of the county funds to do temporary exhibits. That's been changed. This artist, he's been involved with us in the past. He's basically retiring from doing large scale sculptures. So the county got a really great deal on these pieces. Can't wait to see them there and then in other places. But putting Stewart on, continuing to keep Stewart on the arts centric map, doing a competition like they do in Boynton for kinetic art. In Ocala, they do art. It's good for our community to move them around and keep things going. So.
And we sort of stopped. We started with the birds and that was supposed to be a continuing project and that stopped about 6-7 years ago now.
Got expensive.
It was always expensive.
Sculpture
Pete,
is
trust
not
me.
cheap.
I know. You're a bird in yourself. Give you the bird.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second.
We do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chris, you voting?
You said aye.
I said aye.
I get unanimous?
Yes.
I'm gonna go home now.
Not
Thank
a
you.
no in the back.
It's a nice way to start. your-
Okay.
All right, we got one
Now
more.
the
of these.
long item.
So item number 7, resolution number 07-2020, CRA, tentative CRA budget for fiscal year 2021.
Move approval?
Seconded.
All in favor?
No,
Aye.
It's a budget, you should probably put everybody on the record.
Yeah, let's do that. So Michelle, you want to do a roll call?
Excuse me, is there devils in the details?
Wait a second. Do we have anybody? We don't? We don't have anyone online?
The devil's in the details.
No.
Is there a line item
Okay,
budget we're going to get?
I do have one thing. This is a tentative budget, so I do have a request to reduce the Brush with Kindness program to 20,000 and increase the residential facade improvement program to 40,000.
Residential what?
Residential facade improvement program, which I went over during the
joint meeting?
Yeah, at the joint meeting, right?
But we were merging.
So that's going to be a merged program with paint up and other exterior improvements to residential homes.
Because paint up wasn't used at all.
Well, the
That was a
brush-
question that
brush
I
with
had too
kindness
when
is
I
not
looked at it in the
used.
detail thing.
So that's the only recommendation I need for the budget.
Okay. So we have a motion and an approval, and we're going to do a roll call, Michelle?
Tom Kenny,
Yes.
Pete Wilson,
Yes.
Katie Makinson,
Yes.
Chris Lewis,
Yes.
Nathan Ritchie.
Yes.
Did we get all yeses finally?
We did. Amazing.
So that's the last item?
That is the last
I
item.
just want to, since we went through this with East Stewart, I'd like staff to come back to us about the East Stewart overlay so that we do bring it, the boundary does go, and that one street that is missing gets included in the East Stewart overlay. Because we need to tighten up what we do. There's just too many things that are out there and they just don't make sense. And so I'd like to see that come back to us too.
I would like, for you to give me a copy of the urban code, the urban district development, whatever. Every meeting I go to, I'm coming up with stuff that makes absolutely no sense to me and why it's in there. The barrier on the driveway where only one car can get in, then you got to put a second barrier up for the second car. And I don't have any idea what they wanted to accomplish with this. I'd like to look at some of the absurdities in there and review it. So you just got a copy for me, I'll take 2 days.
I just wanted to mention, I didn't have the design with me for the Seminole Street when we were going over the Sailfish Cove. So in front of that development, it is going to be almost 5 feet of sidewalk. So I just wanted to clarify that. And also, I wasn't clear about why we're not doing curbless street is because if we could do on-street parking on both sides of the street, that would provide the buffer. And we're not able to do that, so we have to provide some sort of curb. So that's why it's gonna have a B curb, which is still a little slope. It's not gonna be that high raised type of curb.
Okay, I mean,
One other comment as relates to that. When we do a development order, it has minimums in it. So when we set a minimum of 4 feet, Danelle's absolutely right that there's segments of that building that are going to be upwards of 5 feet of sidewalk, but the building is actually staggered. So the center of the building is going to be 5 feet, but the two ends of the building are going to be 4 feet. So if we set a minimum of 5 feet, then the rest of the sidewalk would be non-compliant. So it's a minimum of 4 feet. If they can fit 7 feet in, have at it. That's great.
That was
my. You were doing minimums.
And that's why I wanted to have as much open space to the river viewing wise as possible, because that's awfully tight. And you don't even realize
they're
it.
giving you 30 feet at one end.
Yes, but that's on top.
Yeah.
The more the merrier when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, the other comment I make, and I noticed around town, the tree ordinance is going to come back to us sometime. We'll polish it up and see if we can come up with something useful for the city of Stewart. The other thing is benches. The other thing is being able to sit down on a curb somewhere, whether it's the edge of a planter or a piece of artwork, or on the front of the building, like in front of Kerwin's, they have a little. You can actually sit.
The windowsill or whatever.
Yeah, like in the window.
Somewhere to sit. It doesn't have to be a bench.
You know, it doesn't have to be big enough for the biggest
Well,
part in the
you
world.
know,
but-
Pete, I was going to make a bench go to Mark's with his artwork.
Right,
You know.
and I would like, I would like to congratulate the hospital. And when you go down Osceola, maybe there's one other section. They're the only one that actually has provided bench sitting outside their Cleveland Clinic.
They have it in front of Blue Door too.
Somewhere up there, yeah, there's one up there I saw that. I would like to see a lot of those, which means sidewalk wise, I'd like to take some of this green stuff we got and make, say we got an 8-foot sidewalk, put a 2.5-foot bench